Welcome back to PPCM's Painful Truth. Today's guest, Tee Ara Williams.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you, and thank you for your time today.
No worries.
Why don't you, since I don't know where you are in the world, why don't you introduce yourself and let me know what state you live in and how old.
Okay. I am from Massachusetts. I currently just moved to Florida. Was born and raised in Dorchester, Massachusetts. Spent most of my life up in New England. Just moved recently to Florida.
So when were you diagnosed, in like what year, and how old were you? And I guess since you moved around, where were you during pregnancy, and were you diagnosed PPCM during pregnancy or at a life threat?
I was 26. Yeah, my daughter's about to be 5. My PPCM baby will be 5 in December.
So is mine. Well, he'll be 6 actually. He's 5 now.
Yeah,
so it was around 2016. So it's 2016.
She was born December 13th, 2017. She was about, I think, 4 weeks early. I was married. I lived in Rhode Island at the time. Me and my husband, we lived in Rhode Island, Middletown, Newport area. I don't know if you're familiar with that area. It's a real vacation spot.
Yes.
Really nice vacation spot. To live there, it's a little bit, in the summertime, it's chaotic, but during the winter, we get our peace and quiet. That's what we used to call it, peace and quiet.
Yeah.
But I was living in Rhode Island. I had been followed by a high-risk doctor in women and infants in Providence. I was too high risk for any of the local hospitals on the island. They call it the island when you live there.
Yeah.
Really like one way in, one way out. So they have a hospital there, Newport Hospital, but they deemed me too high risk. They had no NICU. And before then, my second daughter was already a high risk pregnancy. So they told me I had to go to Women and Infants, which is, like the biggest hospital in Rhode Island. So I got transferred there. I had my maternal fetal medicine there. I had an awesome, follow OBGYN. He was good. He made sure, things were going okay. He had left to have surgery because I was having issues with my blood pressure, and we were watching my blood pressure. And he left to have surgery, and there was another OB that took over. Her name was Dr. Booker. I'll never forget her. She saved my life, literally, because she was like, your chart. She started looking at my chart, like really, really looking into my chart. And she wasn't a Black doctor. Out of all of her staff, she was the only, Black OB in the Women and Infants high-risk team at the time.
Yeah.
She was like, something's not right. Your chart, your blood pressures have been really, really high, and, he was just, trying to figure out why, but he couldn't really put a finger on it. He was saying it might've been preeclampsia, but it was
so basically what I'm hearing is something so common is that they didn't give you the only test to make that diagnosis and determination.
I would have had that BNP, they would have just been right then and there.
Yes, if you had the NT-Pro, exactly, the NT-Pro BNP, which really is, the only determination that, like we say, that America has. We're hoping that FDA approves the SFL T1 and the cardio, which stands for the cardiotoxic fluid, with the PIGF, which is the placental growth factor, which is basically what this disease is.
Right.
It's how the placenta grows. So it's not a heart issue, a heart problem. The heart is affected because it's not being treated with the early diagnosis, which we don't have available in obstetricians. Whereas, it's interesting that I love that you just said that the OB that took over was like your blessing in disguise, because she was the one that saved your life, right? And
Yes, she did.
actually,
Because she was, yeah, she was the
so
only
did
one
she?
that really was like, no, like you're not leaving here.
Right.
She had me like literally walk around, like she did everything to try to get my blood pressure down.
Now, did she ever hear of PPCM, peripartum
She
cardiomyopathy?
is actually the one that came back because I left the hospital. I was in for
Okay.
4 weeks, almost 5 weeks, because I had the C-section. So it was an
Yeah.
extra week. She's actually the one that came back on Christmas Eve and was like, she's not
Bless her
leaving here.
heart. Yeah.
She's not leaving here because
Bless
they didn't
her
know what
freaking
was
heart.
wrong with me. I came in, I couldn't even walk to the desk. Like
Right.
I was over. But before that, just to kind of, so she was like,
so you were basically right. I was actually, it's either, because this disease is so not rare, it's common, it's just rare for diagnosis, but most importantly, it's rare for misdiagnosis.
Scared, to kind of scare me into it.
Sure.
I think she knew what it was because I was her second case. She said there's only been 3 cases there. So I was her second case.
Preeclampsia is there is a correlation. I mean, usually you could fall into both. It's a misdiagnosis,
right?
But it doesn't matter. The prevention is the same. The early diagnosis
is what's really crucial.
What's kind of will determine that early. So when did finally, at what month or how many weeks pregnant were, not that they were tipped off, but that they actually correctly diagnosed you?
That was around, I believe, Thanksgiving. So I was close to about 20, I was in my between 25 and maybe 27 weeks area. I was in that area and she had me do the protein urine test she was like, I'm testing you for preeclampsia. I did the 24-hour urine test. As soon as I dropped the urine off, they called me right back to come in and they admitted me because my levels were like 3,000. Like literally they were so high that they were just like, you got to come back in. You're too far, and this is high, like severe preeclampsia. That's what it was. It was severe preeclampsia.
Well, yeah. So I was, I'm normally 105 pounds and I was over 210 pounds. They drained me over 40 pounds of fluid when I had my cardiac death. But were you swollen?
I was, but the problem was I'm only 5 feet tall. So when I gain weight, when I gain weight, it looks like weight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it looks like roll me out.
Yeah,
Poppy from Trolls.
Yeah, that's basically what I
at the end.
Literally, I look like, I used to say I feel like Willy Wonka when she ate the bubble gum
blueberry. Yeah, when she ate the blueberries in the end, and she goes,
yeah, that's what I felt like when I went in. I felt like a big blueberry.
Huge.
It was like
huge.
My face, and then I look back at pictures, like my face, and then I started noticing my feet. I had like these big swells on my feet. And that's when they were like, this is, they thought it was severe preeclampsia. Not once did I have a cardiac, look at, it was all based on blood pressures and baby heart rate. That was it.
It's interesting because, I mean, literally before my cardiac death, they said, she is not ill on my discharge papers, but, my blood pressure was not bad. But I still,
felt like crap.
I still had, well, no, I think at that point I was like the walking of the dead. I don't remember anything except I couldn't put my socks on my feet.
Wow.
And, mine was at Thanksgiving as well. My cardiac death, my heartiversary is on November 25th, 2016.
Mine's is December 25th. That is so crazy. I was diagnosed officially PPCM on Christmas Day. And ironically, I coded that night.
Wow.
That was the craziest part, was that if I wasn't there, I would have died in my sleep on Christmas Day because I didn't want to go on Christmas Day. I was like, oh, I'll stay.
So you had where did you have your cardiac? Did you have cardiac death?
I coded. I coded.
You coded. I
was out 20 minutes. They said about 20, 25 minutes, I was out. I went to sleep. I didn't even know. I went to sleep. Like I was going to bed, and I woke up and it felt like a Mack truck hit me. And I had all these doctors in the room. They had the shock pads, all that stuff. They had to do
Wow.
the IV to reset the heart twice. So
Yeah.
it literally like stops your heart, and you come back, and then you go again, and then you come back. So they had to
That's
do
what
all of that.
yeah.
But before that,
I was pronounced dead over 30 minutes each
wow,
cardiac death.
wow,
So I don't remember, even when I woke up, it was like as if, I don't know, I went to like some healing dimension and I woke up as if there was nothing wrong with me except for the defibrillator that was, protruding from me that I was allergic to. Because my heart stopped 3 times. I had coded 3 cardiac deaths.
wow.
So if you were like in a sleep, you were just like probably on a, when your soul being and your soul spirit merged, you were probably way evolved before that, where you knew it was not you were not going to stay on the other side. You were going to like, that's nothing that the doctors can do. That's from you having a voice, talking about what's happening, women on the other side that are no longer with us, like Tracy Dominguez, beautiful little girl, daughter Demi that I just posted today.
Yeah, I see
my
that.
stories. These women are furious and saying, "Speak up," and I do believe in like, energy and how energy never dies, and when 2 people come together, like you and I, that did have actual code. We actually coded.
Yeah.
We had that moment, where,
Oh yeah.
I gotta get you that shirt. Death, been there, done. Done
Yeah.
that. Got the T-shirt. I posted that today too. I gotta get you one of those. But it's one of these remarkable phenomenons that not many people can understand what came along with that to get to that point, that suffering, where nobody was listening or nobody knew what the hell was going on. And we're just sitting there with like giving life and feeling like this is the end of my life, and it's mentally,
physically, mentally, it was like, I was 25%. That's what my ejection fraction was by the time they caught me. So it was like, you might not walk out of here. They gave me a living will. They made me, write out my last rites and, where my kids were going to be if anything happened, because it was, usually I was on the cardiac care, the intensive care unit with 80-year-old patients that, were crashing because they're 80 years old. So, it was
absolutely.
really one of those things where like, the guy next to me died, but he was like in his 70s. So I'm like, you got me next to these people that have lived their life. I'm 26 years old, the youngest patient on the floor, and they're still trying to figure out what, they're like, we can't tell you if you're going home. We can't guarantee if you're going home. I never heard a doctor that came in and said, well, you may go home. No, it was just, we're going to work on it every day for 5 days.
Right. And that's where, like, I think women that experience this, not experience the development of a heart failure where our hearts are perfect, because you're 26 years old. There's nothing wrong with your heart. It's the fluid that's crushing it, enlarging it, and weakening it. And it's the fluid that needed to be removed. And the lack of education of the awareness of this fact that has been where women have been around for, the beginning of time giving birth, and that this, is medically proven that no woman should ever suffer or die from peripartum cardiomyopathy.
They say you have a higher chance of dying from a cesarean section or just regular childbirth than getting this. So it's like one of the rarest things you could ever even imagine to even happen. They don't even tell you. You know?
No, it's not. But the thing is that the rarity is not having the awareness and the education and the practice and policy. The diagnosis doesn't exist, so therefore nobody can say that it's not rare, because every day a new girl, a new young woman that just gave birth is chiming in and says, I'm a new member of this group.
I was the third case in Rhode Island. The state of Rhode Island only had 3 cases. I was the third case that was diagnosed.
So we know of.
Who knows how many more after.
Yes, so we know of. We don't know because we don't have a diagnosis.
And who knows who's the ones they said were just cardio, the ones that they just had heart failure, cardio failure or some type of hypertension failure,
Right. And with birthing professionals and obstetricians, they're not cardiologists.
Exactly.
And they don't have the BNP available.
Yes.
They don't know what the BNP is. And so when any birthing professional that I've ever come across, especially the ones on Facebook, a lot of doulas and a lot of midwives think that this disease is spam, or they believe that, stop pushing, PPCM, it's like, how could you be so ignorant to the point of not wanting the education and being informed, and instead just being so opinionated and so uneducated and not care when this is your profession. Right. And it's like, if you do a little bit of research, before you attack other women that are survivors, that been through literally death and back, with an actual message that, as proof, you and I both know that the BNP test as early as 10 weeks pregnant would have prevented you that all of that craziness.
If they would have just pulled it with the protein, even if when I went to the BPCM, they would have seen that that was too high, because by the time they did pull it, by the time that doctor, that OB actually was like, do her BNP, I was at 25%. I was literally drowning in my own heart,
I was at 2%.
Wow.
And then,
if I would have stayed home, I probably would have been, like I said, that night I coded. So I would have went to sleep, and that would have been it.
Well,
there would have been nobody to rescue me.
I coded with Liam in the bed next to me, and John didn't put his headphones on that one time. He heard me, and I had, and it's on video, unfortunately, while he's giving me CPR,
my goodness,
you see me dying and coding, and you hear it, you hear him giving me the CPR, and then the camera turns to his video phone, turns to Liam sleeping next to, like, Liam on the bed, like looking like what was going on, and he was only like 3 months old. So I did code in bed. When the ambulance
didn't even make it to, I was 13 days out of the hospital, to be exact. Crazy. 13 days out. They let me go. They watched my blood pressure. The thing was, my blood pressure was still high. And they had me walk around the whole hospital with this thing and do all this extra stuff, and nothing came up. Nothing. If they would have just pulled that BMP, they would have seen I was dying, and they would have never let me go home. I would have been, put back to where I was on the Centennial, other care unit, because it was something wrong,
So at this point, who was it that actually diagnosed you PPCM?
It was the OBGYN, the one I told you that took over for mine when my doctor had surgery on he had some type of eye surgery. So he was out for a while, and I was at the end of my pregnancy, so I couldn't wait for him to come back. So she took over, because she's like, well, she's not going to wait to have this baby until you come back. And she was the one that
amazing, though.
She came back on Christmas Eve. They called her because she was on my chart. And they said, she's in the hospital. She's 13 days out. She looks like crap. Basically, they told her, like, we don't know what's wrong with her. They did chest x-rays. They did all that. I cleared all that. Only I think the EKG was a little funky. So they were like, all right, we need cardiology, because your EKG and your heart rate's looking a little bit too high. You're sitting and your heart rate's at like 190. Like literally, I was sitting on the
So a
stretcher.
cardiologist did not diagnose you peripartum cardiomyopathy. Your
They
obstetrician
officially did. Yes, they did. I had two
Who-
cardiologists come in and
So the
officially did.
cardiologist.
Yes,
That's what
she
I
ran the
wanted to say.
BNP test. Yeah, she's the one that ran the BNP test and said it's PPCM, but she needed the cardiologist to confirm the heart, the ejection fraction. She said, I'm calling it what I think it is, and she told me that's the first time I ever.
So your OB advocated for you, and she was the one that gave you the NT Pro BNP.
Yes, she said pull that BNP, and
okay.
we're gonna see what the numbers.
What was your number? When
I don't even remember. It was high because when she came back, she was like, we need cardiology to confirm, but I think you have postpartum cardiomyopathy. And she was saying, well, she said peripartum because I was like probably like 5 days out. So she was calling it peripartum cardiomyopathy. I looked at her like, what the hell is that? Like, what is that? Like, the only thing I know is preeclampsia, toxemia and all that. I know that stuff, but what is this? And she was like, it's a type of heart failure that happens rarely. She was like, you literally are like the third case in this hospital.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's so crazy. There was an article that somebody at NBC, somebody contacted one of our PPCM survivors, and it was about birth control. And, women need sometimes after that, if they can't get pregnant again, they need some sort of birth control. So they included, and they mentioned peripartum cardiomyopathy, but they also said that it was rare. And I have such a hard time, like, I'm a very realistic type of person,
Right.
like I'm like, what you see is what you get. Sometimes
Right.
I have good days, sometimes I have bad days. And, I'm what I do for a living, I'm actually paid to call bullshit in Hollywood.
Right.
So that's kind of like, I solve problems, I manage. And when I hear others and medical professionals say that PPCM is rare, it sits with me really bad, like heavy, like I can feel it on my chest.
I think they say it because it's not something that they see every day.
No, it's because it's not that they don't see it every day. It's because they don't diagnose it.
That too. Yeah.
And if you cannot diagnose it, then you cannot say that it's rare. And that's why it's so heavy on my heart.
Right. Because if they just pulled that test, then it wouldn't be so rare. It would be something, and if it was just a standard that came with all the other 9 tubes of blood you get when you're pregnant,
now listen, be fine. A few years ago, we didn't have navigation systems. We didn't have photos on our phones either.
Right.
All our technology is growing.
Right.
The reason why you and I are able to connect is because of the media.
Right.
And, the technology.
Social media.
Social media. And
that's how I found this is, the groups and chats and all that.
Women are now talking. You and I are talking.
Yeah.
We're across, the United States from each other. And so now that we're able to come forward and show ourselves and not be censored, on at least this platform, for any woman to speak up about their peripartum cardiomyopathy experience, that it's not rare. It isn't. And until there is diagnosis, no medical professional, no article should be written that it's rare, because it's not diagnosed. Until it's diagnosed, you can't say that. And so that's why it just sits so hard for me, because it's one of these things where I hear it's way more common than rare, especially when
I feel like it's becoming more emerged now, because I just had a friend that had twins 3 years ago, and she was diagnosed with that, but they caught hers like that. Like there's doctors that are educated, like you said, there's doctors that are educating themselves about this, and they're understanding that if we do something, if we're proactive like we are with preeclampsia, then it doesn't have to get to that point. The same way with preeclampsia, you don't have to go through the toxic shock if you get, do it fast enough,
Yeah, if you prevent the symptoms, then you don't have to experience that pain and
Right.
possibly a life threat. If you prevent
And I think that's the most frustrating part, is that one blood test would have saved both of us. You know,
Absolutely.
one simple blood test would have put us through all that misery and pain. We
Absolutely.
would have been done. You know,
And women who lost their babies are coming through and saying the same thing. I believe that if I was given the NT-Pro BNP test during pregnancy, as early as 10 weeks pregnant, because of my placental growth, my baby would be here.
right?
And so I hear women, talk, and I want to take the time to actually talk with you about this. And I know this is your interview, but this is about women. This is about women talking, coming together, and not being censored.
Right.
So recently, I've been trying to find all these different avenues to try to, get this awareness out there, because like you said, it's about the education, it's about the awareness, and it's a simple blood test, right? So ever since I woke up from coding, and I'm sure like you, it's almost like this is our purpose now.
Right.
To talk about what happened. And so it never happens to another woman again. So here I am, I'm from Philadelphia, New Jersey area. I've worked on behind the scenes on TV shows. I don't usually get in front of the TV, in front of the camera, but I really have been putting myself out there for 5 years and trying to educate PPCM, and no one's really listening. So I decided to just take a step in something that was tangible, like the Mrs. America pageant or, whatever. So I signed up to be Mrs. Calabasas, and it did cost me, money to actually apply and do the application. But it wasn't about the money. It was about having a voice, and having a voice, it being televised, and
Right.
seeing other women who, want to help others and create real change. And these women that came to the pageant of Mrs. California, each one of them are beautiful. All women are beautiful. But we're not just there for our beauty. We're there because we have a voice.
Right.
And that was eliminated as Mrs. California, Mrs. America. They eliminated our voices.
Mm-hmm.
Every woman went there dressed her best in her most beautiful dress.
Mm-hmm.
And, the woman who was holding the microphone, and I did tell her right off the bat, afterwards, you mentioned all our names, all the women's names, but you never mentioned our nonprofits. You never mentioned what we do, why we're here.
Right.
Why did we spend thousands of dollars to be here?
Right.
In a dilapidated community hall when I'm a location manager, and it could have been a beautiful location, having women in high heels in a very dangerous location is not smart. They did not do their due diligence. They did not prep for production. This is California. I do film, I'm a filmmaker. I have, shuttles at my fingertips. I could have even got them a shuttle where women are in the heat that just had makeup, driving, and none of the women got to have a voice.
Wow.
I don't know who the woman was next to me, behind me, over to the left of me, why she was standing there trying to get a rein to help others. Is it teen suicide? Is it, why were they there? Because I knew why I was there.
Yeah.
I didn't want a freaking, crown. I wanted to have a voice.
Right.
And when I wasn't allowed to have that voice, I did demand to have the microphone and at least tell the girls and the women that were there at the pageant and make them aware and say, let's put maternal mortality and baby loss in our history books when it's medically proven that this should be an ancient conversation. And, women in the audience that were in the pageant One of them had a baby loss, and the other one wasn't allowed to, or couldn't compete for like a year or two because she had a pregnancy that was very difficult. And here I'm still standing there with the microphone trying to have a voice. And when I was hysterical, I was crying at the end. And it was because I was so disappointed that a woman's movement that's like Mrs. America, collecting, plastic crowns, and I spent thousands of dollars. I won the media award. I got over 1,000 likes, and it was spray painted, and it gold, and it wasn't real. It wasn't wood. It wasn't metal. It was like I was so disappointed that Mrs. California was a scam to all these women that are all beautiful, that all have voices. And today is like, when we talk about how the BNP and that we are living miracles would have saved all that suffering, and that with a simple blood test, even for preeclampsia, if they're treated like PPCM early enough, they don't have to have those symptoms. And just to have that voice was not televised. People, friends and family paid for live streaming, and it was not connected properly. They didn't have, they could have hardwired. They did not have any production whatsoever. And it was horrible that I didn't have a voice, and that I spent all that time and that money. And as it hurt.
Yeah, it was a lot of effort too. You spend your time. You could be with your family. We know what time is. We know time is limited. We know how it feels to not have all the time in the world, because we know that in a change of a moment, relapse. It's here. It's real.
Time is precious. Time is precious, and we can spend it any way we want. Right. And I always see somebody.
All that time you could have spent on something that would have gotten you
on a woman's heart, on the medication, which we do anyway. We're always there to help others, in any way we can. But it's like at co-pays and things as such. But yes, they basically stole precious time and money from women that suffer from PPCM. And, for my own health, I had to let it go. But at the same time, for my own health, I have to let it out. Because this happened where I was eliminated to not have a voice. And how were these people judged anyway? Because the judges, there's none. Like the judge, I don't know. They didn't even look like, who are they? We didn't know their names. I didn't.
Right.
Like less than 4 minutes. It was very much of calling bullshit that a woman's pageant.
Yeah. You would never think that. I would never think that. That would
looked like, it looked like Coming to America, where Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall is at that pageant where, the women are standing there and, they're just moving props with no voice. And the one woman, she's like, we love the change, but we also love the kind of money that folds, At least she had a voice. No, we didn't have none of the women had a voice. And I was the only woman that stood up and said unacceptable. Also, this woman, her Austin, who was like Mrs. Texas at one point or whatnot. Now she's like a photographer for them, which is just ridiculous. The photo, anyway. She was a choreographer for this, the song to Blessing America, and for our rights and our freedom and America, and we had a flag and we would hold it out. And she put the tall women that were like Amazon, the tallest women, by the way, in front of the shortest girls. Wow. And this poor girl next to me, her name's Katie. I think her name was Katy Perry, Katy, not Perry, oh God, Katy Perry, Katy. Anyway, I wish I knew what she did with her nonprofit, but her little voice, I felt so bad. She was like trying to tell this other girl, Bridget, in front of her that was so tall, she was beautiful. And she was like, can you like move over a little bit? Because when you hold the flag out, all you see is our feet. So the choreographer like put maternal mortality and a woman who survived death, that's literally, I'm 5 foot on my best day, with having the tallest woman directly in front of me. And she purposely blocked her in front of me. And it was because I am a little like where I feel like I'm about women's justice, your justice.
Right.
You having to be on that cardiac floor at 26 years old where you have elderly people, you know, like you were saying, you know, that's real pain. That's what I was crying at the end for. And I was judged for that. I actually got yelled, this one girl, Courtney, yelled at me because she just didn't understand where my heart was at.
That's sad.
I felt like I am not a moving prop. I did not come here and bring my 2 puppies and my son and my husband and drive, you know, hours and spend thousands of dollars to stand there with no voice whatsoever. And this PPCM is all about awareness. Like you said with the doctors.
Yes.
If they had the education and applied it with policy and practice. So that pageant, I'm sorry I had to, this is my first interview. I also did an interview. They took away 2 months of women not being interviewed because my time had to be put into prepping for the pageant. So not only did they take away my time, but they also took away other women's time. And me interviewing you today is talking about them because it is so important. And I said to Alyssa, the woman who was holding the microphone, that has been holding the microphone for Mrs. California, and I said to her in an email, I said, you know, she was trying to tell me that the Fox Theater didn't have a hotel in it. I was saying that the Fox Theater was elegant and glamorous, where for American beautiful women to collect in a dilapidated community and to not have a voice in a location. When I'm a location manager, I mean, I work for The Bachelorette. I work for, you know, I did America's Next Top Model for 6 years. I mean, I know locations, you know, and I can manage them. And I can even bring shuttles where we could have all been limoed at the same time. And all the women could have arrived there. Instead, they're demanding us to be at a certain time, and women are upset because they're late. I got yelled at by that one girl, Rhonda, who had to give up her crown because to somebody, I think Mrs. California, I don't know. But anyway, another woman, and, you know, she said that I made her late, like with makeup, when I was like, what? I was like, I showed up for makeup like 6 minutes so I had to wait at least 10 minutes to be, it was stupid. The whole thing was beneath me and beneath all American women that are there trying to create and make a difference for other women and to lift other women, not take away from them, not steal their time, not steal their money, not steal other women's money. For what? For not being televised? I didn't want the crown. I would have to give the nonprofit title to the American. I didn't want the crown at all. I wasn't there for the crown, and I would have paid whatever or raised whatever to have that voice and have it televised or live streamed. But it wasn't. And, you know, out of everything that you've been through with, and I know that this was my rant because I believe in women coming together and talking. This is my first interview since then. And it's been heavy.
That sounds like a frustrating process that you had to go through. I mean, I would be pretty upset too. because like you said, it took away 2 months of time that you could have been doing interviews, you could have been doing other things to advocate for us, to get a voice out. You could have been on TV doing some things, but instead you thought that was the best avenue at the time. So it's like you really can't beat yourself up, because it really was a good.
It was a woman's group.
It was a
women's pageant. It seemed like
it just wasn't set up the way that it should have been. That's what sucks about it, is that it wasted everybody's time, where we could have did something else with those thousands of dollars, and we could have did maybe something bigger with PPCM, where we got on TV and we all were sitting and had our own kind of show kind of thing,
right?
Our own,
and that's why I told the woman who's running it, Tracy, and the woman who had the microphone, Alyssa, I told them, don't eliminate women's voices,
right?
Like, do not do that. Like,
we already got enough going on.
Yeah, most of the women, they just want a community and friends. I feel like the women there, I feel like they just want to be part of something, which is awesome. I commend that. I am not a pageant woman, by the way. Like, I feel like it was trying any way to fit a square through a peg hole, or a circle through a peg. Like, I'm not
square. Yeah, through.
I was doing it, but it shows that I will do anything for the awareness.
Right.
And you confirming that the BNP test would save so many lives and our life that we suffered through.
Yeah. We wouldn't have had to go through half of what we went through. I say that all the time. I think about that. If they would have just pulled that one test, we probably would have been saved. I wouldn't have had to go get any type of monitoring. I wouldn't have had to go through the coding. I wouldn't have to go through the pain of pills.
Did they put a defibrillator inside of you?
I had a loop recorder. I just recently had a ablation because I was tachycardia. So basically, it changed the form of my heart, literally going through all that. And my heart got stretched out. Like, literally, that's how my cardiologist explained it. Like, your heart is basically a muscle. And it was like it got stretched out, and now it's trying to come back. I luckily came back up to 50%. So I'm sitting at 50%, but I'm symptomatic. That's the only problem, is that I still have symptoms. And it's like, it's just a daily life that I've
What are your symptoms? Yeah, we do get used to them, and the weird things that happen.
Dizziness, the heart. Like, sometimes I'll go, I'll feel I was going AFib, and I wasn't even noticing it. That's why I got the loop recorder, because it was literally like I would go AFib, and sometimes I wouldn't even feel it. And my doctor would read the recording, and he's like, like, did you feel that? I'm like, no. So it got to the point where it's like, this is a lifelong thing that I'm gonna probably have to deal with the rest of my life. It's like, even on the good days, you kind of forget you have it, but then you get that day where it's like, like you feel it, you feel all the tiredness, you feel the fatigue, you feel it all over again, so
yeah, it's for me, when you say dizziness, sometimes I realized that I had to regulate my medicine as well.
I don't know how many times I've changed my meds.
I know, me too.
See,
that's a whole other thing.
Allergies and it's like, I'm allergic to amoxicillin, I'm allergic to this, so it's like everything.
I was allergic to the defibrillator that was inside of my heart. I had it removed on February 14th, 2018. My heart shrunk completely.
Wow.
Like it was like almost deteriorated. As soon as they pulled the wire out, miraculously, like you said, it's a muscle. So muscle has memory, thank goodness.
Yeah.
So, which is why we recover.
Yeah, that's what basically my cardiologist said. Like, you're going to, you may get better, but it's always the muscle. You pull a muscle, you gotta wait. You can't.
Right.
It's not something we can just say, okay, we're gonna fix. That's basically the last cardiologist. He retired. He had myself, and another PP. He was really awesome. Like, he would read up on things, and he would come to the appointment like, I found this out. He was really like an advocate for PPCM, because, like he said, he followed the one lady for 20 years. Her son was 18, and he felt like that's what he was. It was his due diligence to do that, because that was the first time he said he ever heard of that. And he was like, as a doctor, and being a doctor 15 years in the practice, and seeing something for the first time, like, he was like, I was so mad at myself that I didn't know about this and didn't know that women.
That's how I feel like. That's how I feel like the birthing professionals, like the birth keepers that they call themselves today on Facebook. That's the right reaction. When you really love what you do, and you really care about your patients, that's the right reaction. I mean, like,
he was my best cardiologist. I cannot lie, because he would come, like I said, he'd come to appointments and he would tell me new things, you know.
What was his
and
name?
The last time he retired, so he probably about 2 years ago. I was so sad. Like, I gotta find another you. So he retired, but he, you know, he sent out a nice letter and thanked me personally. You know, he said, you taught me so much in such a little time, because we only had about 1.5 years together. But he was like, you know, I read up even more because, you know, you were a younger case. You know, the older case was 20, she was 20 years in. So he was like, it was refreshing to see a younger case and to see the new, you know, the new articles. He'd read the health journals and then, you know, the news journals for the health weeks and all that stuff. And, you know, he was the one that told me, like, I don't feel comfortable taking you off your meds. I read one of the journals and it said that, you know, your ejection fraction has a higher risk of, you know, relapsing if you take away meds. So he was like, honestly, you've come so far. He was like, I would hate to see you go back to where you came from, you know. And that was a decision that, you know, him and I really, you know, I didn't want to be on meds anymore. Of course, who wants to be on meds?
Right.
But I felt like
destroyed
he was
my skin.
genuinely saying, like, I want to keep you alive. You know, it didn't feel like a doctor. It felt more like a father and daughter talk, because he's like, I don't want you to lose any of the progress that you have made. You know, and it was really heartfelt. He was like, I'm not going to take you off your meds. I'll adjust. But he's like,
what medications? What medications were you on?
I was on, for a while, I was on carvedilol and losartan. I started off on metoprolol. I think that was my first start was metoprolol. And I think I got switched to that because I had funky side effects with metoprolol. And it was just like a mess. Like, I would get like these weird, like, tremors, and it was like I had all the rare.
Did your blood pressure drop really low?
Weird. Like, I would get like these weird aches and pains, and as soon as I switched that, it was like, okay, well, maybe it's a little bit better. That's another thing about PPCM. It kind of like, I feel like it kind of, I don't know if you say activated, but it kind of like from I guess it's from, you know, the lack of blood flow for one. And, you know, being in, you know, the shock that we are in when you do die, you know, like your body goes through something. I had to go to a rheumatologist. I had to go to, you know, get diagnosed with all types of, you know, autoimmune disease type of diagnosis. And it ended up with this fibromyalgia diagnosis after, because it just felt like my body was shutting down on me. So I don't know the correlation between the two, but I had never had such a feeling until after that, you know, after that experience. It was like, what is this? You know, like, and the rheumatologist was like, you have fibromyalgia now. So, and that can be like nerve damage. And then, you know, it's sometimes nerve damage, heart failure.
Well, that's when my mom had that. She had heart surgery, ironically, November 25th, but we were 27 years apart, I think, from each other, or from the heart surgery. It was like the same day.
Wow.
But
wow.
Apart. We were supposed to have our heart anniversary, but she had fibromyalgia, and she suffered with it for so many years. But she ended up getting it around, it was caused by the heart failure. So, and she was 27. It wasn't 27. She was 27 when she had it. And that had the
That's
heart
around
surgery.
the time I got diagnosed too. I was around 27, 28. It was about 2 years out from having the, you know, the PPCM diagnosis. And I kept going back to the cardio and saying, I mean, you know, we kept changing meds and I still was having the same symptoms. So they sent me to rheumatology because they were like, maybe you have some
fibromyalgia is a sounds like it's like the effect of a body trauma.
Yeah.
Like a post traumatic stress
Yeah, well, the nerves just get
with
like
the
super
nerves.
shocked,
Right.
basically, and they just don't know how
Right.
to calm down themselves, and it causes pain. That's basically
Does
what
she
it's like.
do?
It's kind of, like I have mainly my pain is my neck and shoulders, which is, near my heart. So it makes
That's
sense.
like me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the heart sits on the back.
Yeah.
I have to constantly ask John to like push, or
Yep.
I got one of those.
I have a massage gun. I have to do it every night. Sometimes my legs, like I feel my feet and my legs are getting worse. But as you go on with fibromyalgia, it gets worse. I've been trying to avoid
Well, if
the.
you, yeah, if it's a circulation thing.
I've been trying to avoid the opioids ever since diagnosis. I've been doing everything but
So what you need,
pain,
yeah. My mom had, certain routines, and I do them. Like she passed away recently, right after my heart surgery. It stressed her out so bad.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like PPCM. I know. Thank you. PPCM took down the whole freaking family. Blame it all on that. But she would. There was very much right. Like she was strict about the very first thing that you put in your mouth, even before you brush your teeth when you wake up in the morning, is your gut. She believed was the function for everything. So she would always have hot lemon water before she would put anything in her mouth, not even a toothbrush, because it's something that goes into your gut.
Right.
And so and whatever.
It's the acidity, it helps break down any type of I have colitis too, so like they usually say anything with acid, limes, lemons, it helps with parasites and helps cleanse that first, usually when you get up, that's usually what you need, a nice cleanse to go through.
A nice cleanse, right? Yeah. And then maybe have an orange afterwards or something.
Yeah.
But she would always
say do aloe. I did aloe shots too. I used to do aloe vera shots, straight aloe vera, pure aloe vera.
Pure. Well, actually, there's the best olive plant is in Africa or Morocco, and they have olive oil. If you take olive oil, like a spoonful of olive oil, and I did this to my son because he sometimes snores.
Yeah.
But it lubricates.
Yes,
it does. Your organs, so that also can help. But I believe, and this was also my recovery that I included when I was dying the second time or the fourth time, when the defibrillator is, I got foam weights in the pool.
Nice.
And
yes, I was told the pool. I tried. That's why I moved to Florida.
So,
Winter's a pool there.
Exactly. So I mean, but the foam weights lift you up, so you're moving, less pressure on the heart and the chest.
Yes.
I'm at the point now. My EF percent, believe it or not, is at 71%.
Wow.
Yep. But
and that's without the defibrillator. You with no defibrillator?
I was allergic to the defibrillator.
So they didn't put it back. They just left it.
No, I was allergic to the components.
Wow.
The metal, nickel, titanium.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it was awful.
That's my biggest fear because I have a nickel allergy. So
it was so fucking painful. I went to 7 other cardiologists, 4 other electrophysiologists, and they all would not touch me. They said I had an 80% chance of dying.
Wow.
And there was a higher chance of dying than there was to live if they were to remove it.
Wow.
But it was killing me.
Right.
I mean, you saw even now, like you look at it, it's like I hold my arms out. You can cut me down. I look so different on the left than I do on the right. I'm completely full of I had it caused a blood clot from here to they said it was the longest blood clot. I was on warfarin forever to dissolve it, but it was so bad. And I'm sitting there telling these doctors, I'm I'm a very healthy girl, and I know I'm literally I'm dying. You got to get this
Right, something's wrong. And that's how I feel sometimes. I'm like, something's wrong. I know myself. This is not it.
My message was 911. I'm dying, and I was working. I'll never forget. I was working. I do locations, and I got a call for Kim Kardashian, and I ended up calling the location and seeing if she would do it. Of course, she said no, but she said, "Oh, how you doing with your pregnancy?" I said, "Not so good." I said, I coded, and I need this defibrillator out. Turns out that she's the head of the cancer floor at UCLA at UCLA Medical Center, and she ended up getting Dr. Carol Watson. If you look her up, she's fabulous. I actually did a video with her. She confirmed that the BNP test would have saved my life, and that it's a shame when someone dies because it's heartbreaking that it is preventable. So if you go to PPCM Fund on the YouTube, where we're going to be airing this on the podcast, you go to videos, you can see Dr. Carol Watson, and she sent me a photo of what the wire looked like that was shoved into my heart. The wire was like longer than like my leg.
Yeah.
And it was bad. It was so bad. It was so painful. I think that dying from the deadly defibrillator was way more painful than the PPCM coding death, 100%. And it was so bad that, when you're allergic to something,
right,
it hurts.
Yeah, it's a reaction
inside your body and your heart.
Right.
It was beyond anything I could ever.
Your audio is a little low. I don't know if you could turn your audio up.
It was so bad. Maybe because it's not. It was so bad that I never wanted to wish this on anyone. So my big awareness to anybody, that if you've ever had like a belly button ring and it kind of like rejected,
or even wear like I can't wear fake jewelry. I have to. It's the same. You get that irritating. That's what I said. Wow, I couldn't imagine because I'm allergic to nickel. So there's a lot of like fake jewelry I can't wear. And if I tried to, I had to take these earrings out. I had these earrings in, and I was like, oh, this is not it, because I start to feel like you said, it feels like you're just ready to just like, and you can't take out.
Yeah,
you can't just pull that out.
I had a belly button ring, and I tried it like 3 times. I really wanted it for whatever reason. I was stupid.
Yeah.
And my body and all my girlfriends, they got to sport it like no problem, and it was cool.
Right.
And I couldn't have it.
Right.
So if you can't have something like that, like an earring, do not approve it into your body.
Yeah.
Especially not into your
I did
heart.
good with luckily I did good with the loop recorder. I guess that one wasn't too bad. I had a loop recorder implanted for about 3 years, and it wasn't too bad. It didn't. Luckily I did not have a reaction to it.
You know what? It probably also had a film.
It was like, it looked like it was like this big, about this big, and it just went right across. And when I had the ablation, it had died. I literally died. So they were like, well, we could take it out. And when I had the ablation, they were like, it kind of, it fixed that one, because I was having the AFib. I was going like the AFib. He was like, you were just laying on the table and we could see your heart rate going up and down, up and down, up and down. He was like, you should have been did this. That's what he kept saying to me. Why didn't you do this? Like, why did you wait so long? I'm like, well, I've been through so much. It's just like, I just wanted to recover. I didn't want to be under fanatic, and I didn't want anybody messing with my heart. I just felt like, just let me breathe,
Yeah.
So I finally braved up and did it. It wasn't too bad, but it so far so good. Hopefully I won't need another one.
Right. The fear, I think, of getting it and getting that cocktail, whatever they give you to put you under.
Yeah. It's like going back. It kind of brings trauma back, because you're like, and and then it's a common procedure, especially done in Boston. They do it every day, all day, whatever day. But it's still that factor that, things do go wrong. Your heart is its own mind. I learned that. Like, if it wants to go, it's gonna go do what it needs to do and leave you be, it's not going to tell you, So I think that was a part of it too. It's just like, going through that. But I mean, I would do it again because I definitely got relief from it. I definitely felt relief with it. So if he did say I needed one more,
okay,
I would go for it, just because I know that it is something that eventually, it will hopefully be fixed,
What is it? How did it just relieve pressure?
It was, so it was, I had two like things going through my groin up to my heart, and he basically like triggered it, and they basically, I guess, burn that nerve or whatever that blockage is, unblock it or whatever they do to get to when they trigger it, it doesn't react the way it does the same. Okay. So like it doesn't go high rate. Like usually, I guess there's something that he hits, and it makes your heart kind of go, and it tells them. I mean, Boston has some really good technology. So, it's
absolutely.
It's like pretty cool how they can just use this device and it like beeps when it gets to the point, basically like this is it, and basically he'll hit it and then he'll test it. And if I don't go into the shock again, then he said that, he said I tried it 3 times and you stay normal. So it was good, that it worked. It's pretty cool how, Boston has so much different things that, they pull out the woodwork for heart surgeries. And it was quick day surgery. I was in and out, nothing big.
Well, I think that it's amazing that we have all this, heart technology that, it's the only thing that's saving us.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that's why I was really pushing, which is what also Dr. Watson says on that video, that, I played a big part in trying to say that cardiology and obstetricians need to be taught. Yes.
They need to talk. They need to have chats. They need to not be in separate buildings and away from this. The thing that I laughed at was because with my second one, they caught her heart murmur inside of my belly. And they sent me I was living in Massachusetts, and Brigham and Women's literally sent me to this neonatal. It was the coolest ever. I'd never had an ultrasound like this. They have these neonatal ultrasounds on the heart of the baby that basically look like heart echoes, but it's inside of you. So you see heart chambers, you see all this crazy, all the blood flow. And they caught her murmur. They told me about her murmur. Hers was pretty minor and a little bit innocent.
My mom had a heart murmur.
She had some type of valve thing.
My mom had a valve thing.
My second one had
so much going on. Is this the PPCM baby?
This is the second one. This is before the PPCM one. So I had a high risk pregnancy with her. It was mainly her. It wasn't me. So I think that's why when I got pregnant the third time, I didn't think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be, pre-eclamptic and all that. Because most of the things that were happening were baby, like she had all the issues and the deformities and all the different types of
Does she have
abnormal sounds.
Does she have a heart murmur now? Is she?
So far, we haven't really looked into it because she hasn't had any symptoms. But the last time when they did do it, they said it was innocent. So it was, it's small, and they were like, people live with them forever. I have an aunt.
Yeah, my mom. Yeah, she was fine.
I have an aunt that's like, I've been here 50 years.
Yeah.
So it's not really something until, if we do in the future, it's something that we know that we just keep in our heads. But it's just it's ironic that they can do all this with cardiology, with baby and, being in the womb. But when it comes to us, it's like, we don't get that when we just get ultrasounds. We don't get, we check your heart, Well,
I know. Good, Well, also, not just about the baby. It's like dogs too. Like, my dog Luna, is going to have babies, and my vet gave her BNP. And
oh, wow. It's standard for a dog, but it's not standard for a human, huh?
No, it's standard for, it's not only standard for a dog, it's standard for a cat. So if you go to Snap,
wow.
go to Snap.
Wow.
Go to Snap, 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 BNP Pro.
Wow. I never knew that.
SnapProBNP.com, and it's a BNP test that you can give a cat at home that looks like a pregnancy test for women.
No way.
Yeah,
And they
check
can
it out.
give us that.
No. And so I ended up having like the best conversation with like the veterinarian. I said, wow. I said, why can't I have this type of conversation with like birthing professionals? And,
Right.
you know, and to find out that, you know, for a dog, it's like under like 530 or something like that.
I just Googled it. I'm like, wow.
Did you look up Snap Pro?
Yes, I had to, because I'm like,
Doesn't
it
really does it not look like a pregnancy test?
Wow. But they
It
couldn't
looks
give
like a
it to
pregnancy.
us, right? I wonder, did the vet say, will it work on humans as well, or is it just specifically for animals?
You know, I think I'm gonna. Well, I have a cat, so I think I'm gonna buy one and just try it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if it would work. Like, is it something that we can like just take from the animals?
I didn't really think about that. Can we take it from? Can we take? Wow, because the thread exists.
You don't have to make something new, and it's already there. Just buy it. Just buy it, guys. You get enough.
I'll be giving them to
healthcare. You get enough from private insurance. People pay thousands and thousands of dollars to have babies. They pay for skin in the hospital. I think I would pay for a test to save my life.
So this doula contacted me. They raised the price for the BNP, and she sent me. She says, you know, I have a few pregnancy women, that, you know, really that need the test, but it's like $100 and what did she say? She said it was like $140 now, I think, out of pocket, and. You know, she says, you know, a lot of my clients won't be able to pay that. Who is she? I got to respond back to her. And so
that's
I think
that's a real outrage.
So when you think about it, she says, I have.
Basically, it's like, do you want to save your life or do you want to just go on hand? You know?
Right. You would have it at 10 weeks pregnant. You'd have it at, you know, during your second and third trimester. You most definitely have it after. Yeah. So let's say, you know, you have, I don't know,
4. Probably the minimum is probably going to be 4 out of the whole, you know, depending on what your results are. If your results are, you know, higher than normal, then of course you're going to have 4.
Right. So here they're raising the dollars for the BNP, making it harder for women to, you know, actually be tested.
That's sad.
And what was her? I gotta find it. So I said to her that maybe there could be some sort of a collaboration with, you know, PPCM fund with the lab,
right?
You know, and then let's say the fund would pay for any woman that wants to get a BNP, and we get them some sort of like, you know, where they wouldn't have to pay $100 and something. Maybe they would only pay like
a
$10
sliding scale type of fee.
Yeah, a sliding scale fee.
Yeah.
So I've been contacting like Quest and, you know, things like that. But it's like they're
the
really
big diagnostic companies. Yeah.
But it's a conspiracy they've really caught on with the BNP. It's almost as if like now they're turning down women who are pregnant.
Wow.
So I've been getting a lot of messages where women are being turned down the BNP, literally. And that's like that's said, sad. The mom is tested differently because we're a different vessel than the baby. The placenta is in the womb, but the placenta is part of the woman.
Right.
So they're testing the babies, and if the baby is fine, then they send the women home. So then when the women call and they say, you know, I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling this and this and this, and then
That's
I say
exactly
to
what
them,
happened to me. It's like I had a C-section, 5 days. You know, they looked at my blood pressure and was like, you just had a baby, you know, type of thing. It'll go
brush it
down.
off.
Swelling will go down. Everything will go down. You know, go home. Third baby. You know, it was my third. Especially when you hit, you know, past your first, second. They're just like, you've been here before. You know, like you know about this, and it's like not
No,
really.
really.
This is a little bit, you know. And I kind of was like, this is not it. But I had no choice. I really wanted to go home anyway because I had already been there 4 weeks. So it was like, you know, I kind of knew I said, I'm going to be back. I knew I was going to be back, but I just didn't know for what. I was like, maybe, you know, a blood pressure pill might make me feel better. You know, that's what I was thinking. I didn't think my wildest dreams. I didn't think I was going to be in there people telling me I wasn't going to leave. You know, that was the last thing on my list. I thought I was going to go home. I was crazy, take this blood pressure med and have a good Christmas. That's what I thought they was going to say to me. So, you know, it really hurts that
It's
they're really
scary
trying to bump
that you were brushed off. It's scary that you witnessed firsthand of what it's like blowing off a woman with something.
It got to the point where
it's not like you just gave birth. You gave life.
At the time, he was like, you're just, you know, at the time, you know,
it can't be
heard
like
it so much. He heard it so much from the doctors, and I'm telling him like, I don't feel good. And he's just like, you know, you just had a baby, and that was the reason why.
But that's what I mean. You just had a baby, right there.
And I knew I wasn't good. That's why I said I knew inside of me I wasn't good, because I just was like, it may look like I'm okay, but something is going on, you know.
But they minimize that. You just had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
That sentence right there. There's something wrong with you. You didn't just had a baby. Exactly. I had a baby out of my body. Hello.
Like, it was like everybody
just
had you're good, you know, the swelling will go down, your blood pressure will go down. You know, they usually say preeclampsia takes a while, you can have it after. So that's what they were all assuming, that this was like a after. I don't know what they call it, the direct term, but they have something like you still have your preeclampsia after for a couple weeks, or you know. And that's what I think they were just hopeful that it was. But if they would have just pulled that one blood test, they would have seen that I shouldn't have been going home in the first place, you know?
Absolutely. So the
definitely think you're not going anywhere.
Right. And then we're back to that we do not have a diagnosis.
Yes.
And which
like
is
you
why
said, with the cardiologist too, it takes both of them, because the OB can say it. Like she proved to me that an OB can say you have PPCM. The cardiologist has to come in for that to automatically be diagnosed together. They have to combine. And I had two that came in and said, yep, 25%. They did the thing. And that's when they looked at me and said, yeah, OB was right.
Right. Well, cardiologist is up here, gynecologist is down here, but this is a pregnancy-induced heart failure. So, you know, really, a cardiologist should always be present with a pregnant woman. The two,
especially high risk. I you know, if I can understand,
but not even high risk.
You know, you could have a little communication, but high risk.
I have interviewed women that said that they have had an absolute beautiful, magical pregnancy, breastfeeding their baby, having cardiac arrest, and now on a heart transplant list. So it's all about the test. Right. Unless you know what the blood is, you can't even ever assume.
My first baby, my 12-year-old, 11-year-old, normal. When I say I went to 41 weeks, that's how normal. I went to 41 weeks with her. The second one, total disaster. I barely made it. I had to pull teeth to get to 37 because they wanted to pull her every day because of just, you know, her self being. She was small, she didn't grow. And I'm just like, come on. You know, I was a military wife at the time. My husband was in Texas doing what he does in Texas. I'm like, you guys got to give me some time, because he still wasn't able to come back. You know, he missed the birth of his daughter because the Army, they were like, you know, he was being deployed. So they were like, we don't have time for that. Basically, like, you have to go. So, the Army screwed us over, and I ended up having her by myself. And it was just, that was a mess too. And then the third one, it was just total
Wait,
like,
is it because the Army, they don't have any, um, they don't have any care or respect or leniency?
it
What
was
is
so
it?
frustrating because I sent a whole Red Cross letter. They have this thing called a Red Cross letter. I sent the Red Cross letter along with my OB. Also, she attached a letter saying that, hey, she needs to have this baby. He needs to come back. He needs to go on his
Right.
leave. And
Absolutely.
they basically were like, we're a week out from deployment to Afghanistan. Training has to be done before he goes. So it was like he was on orders. He couldn't, like, they would have called him AWOL if he would have left. Basically, the Army basically put it like that. It's like they would have deemed him AWOL if he would have left. But said, you know what? We don't need that headache. Just go.
That's awful control. That's like there's only one moment of your life that you give birth to your child, and
that was his first child. My first one that was his first daughter, and he had no control over it. And I sent the Red Cross letter, which is like the emergency letter. That's telling you like something's wrong. You usually don't send a Red Cross letter unless you're giving birth, somebody died, somebody's about to die. Like
right, and you were both.
Yeah, so it was like I was at that point.
You were all the above.
They were like, send the Red Cross letter, So I had to go and, do that. And it just was,
I'm sorry.
It was horrible with my second one. And my third one, he was actually home for the third one. And that was a mess too, because it was just like, all the doctors like, oh yeah, this is the third pregnancy. They just kept convincing him that I was fine. So he got to the point where he's like, you're fine, like, go home, we can go home, we can eat whatever we're going to be, And I just was like, no, like I knew something was wrong when I couldn't lay down. Like I couldn't lay flat on my bed. And I always sleep on my stomach. I'm a stomach sleeper. And
me too.
I was like literally choking on my own spit. Like I felt like I had so much to come up. And like literally I found myself just sitting on the bed like I can't even sleep. There's no way. And my daughter, I thought it was like some type of asthma thing. My daughter has an inhaler. I'm like huffing an inhaler. Like, this is not working. It's because it's not a lung issue. It's heart, So
it was the fluid crushing the heart.
Yeah.
It wasn't your heart. Your heart was affected by the fluid.
Yeah.
It's because your heart is 50 EF%, right?
Yeah.
Because the fluid.
I had a valve.
You have a valve flutter.
That mitral where it was back and regurgitating and all that too. But that was after it filled up with fluid, it was just like,
right.
And basically, I love the nurse the way she explained it. She was like, basically, your heart's supposed to go, and yours is just going, all of that is just going,
right.
The most like fun nurse ever on the cardiac floor. She's just like, she felt so bad because I'm so young. She was like, my youngest patient I ever had on this floor. And she's like, for them to put, she was like, this is the place where people literally come to die. Like, she's like, usually you don't leave this floor,
Yeah.
Very few, get out. And she's like, they're usually 70 and 80-year-old patients. So they're sending them home to die, if they do leave. So it felt real. It was a real, like, violin playing every day type thing, because you would hear the coding of patient next to you. You would see the room get empty next to you, so you knew he was gone. Like, it was just like, oh my gosh, you'd see them rushing because one was coding, and the other one coding too at the same time, and they're all coming out, and it's like, damn, that's gonna be me. You start thinking like, damn, that's gonna be me next. Like, they're coming in here for me next.
You're not going anywhere for a while. You have obviously.
Yeah, I fight every day.
You're meant. Yeah, you're going to be a grandma. You're meant to be around.
That's what I said. I said, I fought to be here many of times. My mom wasn't the best with her prenatal care, and she had her issues. So, I made it through unscathed. I was a miracle baby because they couldn't understand how I ended up with no toxins, no drugs, no nothing in my system. Like, clear. I was like the happy, healthy baby that they couldn't understand, because this woman had so many toxins and so many different things in her blood. When they did a blood test, they were like scratching their heads like, she's alive, like the baby's alive.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, I have overcome so much in my life that,
you're like my fellow starseed that, you know, you have a calling, and, you know, I mean, I'm sure random people just come up to you and tell you their probably life story, because you're kind of like that, you know, where you're meant to communicate and talk, and that's why you lived, because
to tell the story, to connect with others, because I knew there were other people out there. I'm like, I can't be the only one. And sure enough, I had a friend I went to high school with, and she had her twins and had the same thing. Luckily, they caught hers really fast. She was at 50%, and they caught her, she was dropping. So they caught her, she went 50, 45, 40, you know, they caught her and they admitted her. And I'm like, you know, that BMP test saved your life. Literally.
Yeah, well, they say out of three women standing there, one is PPCM. You know, 3 girls. So I always look at like the little girls at the park. Like we went to the park yesterday, and there were all these little girls. And I kept thinking, and there was like, you know, they were talking and stuff, and I'm thinking, God, you know,
I have 3 girls myself, and you know, you think about it, like
one, yeah, it's like
it could be any one, or it could be none. You know,
it could be one, it could be none.
Yeah.
But the statistics is every 3 minutes. I mean, now your daughters, and this is actually something that I think that should be, you know, encouraged by women who have little girls. Like, I don't have a little girl, I have a boy. Yeah. But if you have
I had 3 girls. That's funny.
Yeah, and I feel like there are, especially like during your period, or, you know, at 13 years old, you know, they say early diagnosis saves lives. Yeah. For women that have fluid during pregnancy. Well, I think that a girl who's 13 years old that's getting her period should get the BNP. You got your period, your first period, we're going to get you a BNP and know your number. Because there could be I don't know, and it could be just a dumb theory, but there could be maybe elevated signs.
There could be some correlation. You're right. It could
be
some correlation.
I mean, it's blood.
Yeah.
You get your period, you're bleeding. Yeah. The blood is the BNP. The blood is the only diagnosis that we have for women.
Right.
So why not? You know, if your little girl, when she gets older and she gets her period, you know, it can't hurt. You know, I
could see the between like that and between, like, you know, when they usually recommend the first pap smear, like around that time where it's like,
yeah,
you're starting to figure out if you're going to have
standard
or not. You know, this would give you an outlook to say, hey, this is what you're going to be prepared for. You know, your BNP is high now, so who's to say it's not going to get higher in pregnancy?
Or not even like high. It just more or less like, does it elevate?
Right. And
what's her norm?
With the correlation, you know, for earlier detection, like say you have high numbers, you never had a baby. What is that number when you do get pregnant? You know, does that change or does that stay the same? That's what I always wonder.
Right.
It's like,
there has to be a comparison.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it just something that randomly elevates itself within the body, or is it something that you can trying to say, well, when I was younger, I had, you know, like when people have like their appendix out, you know, you have your appendix out when you're younger. So when you go, you tell them, I had my appendix out. You tell them, I had a high BNP test when I was younger. Now I'm pregnant. You know, it's something that.
Yeah, baby, get the magnesium drip, a little throughout pregnancy, so you don't develop that fluid that can flush it out, you know, or, you know, there are, I believe, I mean, when they say like early diagnosis saves lives with the NT-proBNP awareness during pregnancy, if I had a little girl, I mean, I want him to get his B. He's a little, you know, he's a little scaredy boy. He won't get a shot. So, but I've been telling him forever, you know, you need your BNP once a year, you know, BNP. So he knows about it. He knows that he needs to get it, but he's not also a little girl that's going to be a young lady and will someday be a woman.
Right.
And so I think if the obstetrician, as you say, when you get your first pap smear, if the standard by the time she's 13 years old, if the standard for the blood test are not raised, because that's what we're talking about, raising
Right.
the standards for, blood labs and screenings for all pregnancies. But if it's not, you make it for your house the standard,
Right.
The BNP standard as early as 12, depending on how early she gets her period,
Right. Right. It is. I
But-
mean, like I said, I would love to understand, like, if there was any type of study, it would be nice to understand the correlation of, like you said, starting early, 12, 13, 14, around that preteen
Yeah.
teenage area, and seeing when these children do have children and do decide to have children, does that stay the same or does it change? And that would tell us, like, is it something that randomly happens, or is it something we could probably like trigger right there and say, there it is,
we, in this era that we live in right now, like you and I, we are the study, and our children are the study of
Yeah.
this.
I'm
So
very
it's-
curious on my PPCM, my girl. I'm very curious on what effect that took on with me being.
It could be
through all
nothing.
that. Yeah.
You know what?
It could be
From what
absolutely nothing. You're right.
from what I'm told, if it, with Liam, they're protected in that placenta. They're protected.
Right.
We're not.
Right.
So, it depending on the, like you said, the growth and like the fact that she was a little premature and, she had developed some things, maybe she, as she gets older, I would be on her BNP to compare between now and at least once a year to have that comparison, because she is a study. She is
Right.
a PPCM baby.
Yeah, she's
She
a
is a
result
girl.
of it. Yeah.
She is a
And
result. And, even in, let's say, 12, 5, 10, 15 years, let's say she does have her BNP or whatnot, we can have interviews all the time as follow-ups as she
Right.
gets older.
Right.
To-
and when she does decide to have her own children too, that would be like,
I might have gray hair, but
We're gonna
we
be
should
only
still
gray in our
talk.
years, but maybe
We should still
I always wanted to come to California, so I might even come see you in person.
Absolutely. It's
I have
amazing.
family out there, and I always said that I want to. I'd never been to California, so.
Well, they're definitely gem must see, like caves on the beach, and you would have to know where to go
Yeah.
and
As I said, I
Yeah.
have family out there, so that'll be the first thing I do, because I don't know California, but I know it's a huge state and it's beautiful. I have friends that have been out there, and I'm like, I want to go one time, at least one time,
as a location manager, like that's my job. I'm a location manager for movies and television for over 18 years on top TV shows, and I am a paid scout. I'm a paid manager for the studios. And I'm telling you, when you think you have everything, you don't. There's so much to see out here. It is so big. It is so amazing.
Florida moving to Miami kind of did that to me. I was like, wow, this is a big world here. I was stuck teaching. Like, I was a teacher in Massachusetts 13 years straight. I moved to Miami. I've done so many little jobs. I've done video production. My cousin has a video production company.
I
He
love
invited me on
Miami.
scene to to work the cameras, because I used to do photography too. So he's like, come on, get back in your photography. And it's like, Miami is just like, you pick what you want to do and you do it. And it's like, every day you can do something different and make money off of it. And it's a new, I do it all.
My parents met in Florida. My mom was from Coral Gables. My dad went, Miami.
He worked in
We
Coral
still have
Gables. I
home.
did production in Coral Gables. I
Yeah.
worked at Miami U.
And my dad graduated. He was in the Hall of Fame for what he does, but he graduated from he's Dolphins, University of Miami.
Yeah.
And I went to school in college in Florida at Lynn University.
Okay.
And I lived there for a very long time. And we were actually even talking about if we were to ever move out of California, we'd move back to, we'd probably move to, back to Florida. so I think Florida is amazing. I mean, there is tons of production out
It's a
there.
big world. It
It is a
shows you
big
that you
world.
can do everything. Being
Everything.
from Massachusetts is so small and
Right.
restricted, and you need 10 bachelor's degree just to teach, kindergarten. And I'm like, I don't want my master's to change diapers. Like, guys,
Yeah.
I'm not spending 50 grand to be stuck changing diapers for 20 years. So it
So
just
you have a teacher's degree.
yes, I do. I have a teacher's
Oh, that's what
degree.
I
Yeah.
had teacher's degree in Florida as well. That's what I
Yeah, I
graduated in.
just actually transferred all my my accreditations down there too from Massachusetts because it's different. So I literally was
Yeah.
like, got in real quick. Eventually, the goal is to probably open. My goal is I want to open a 24-hour daycare.
Yeah, there you go.
I want to get to that point where I want to be outside the
Start
class.
with camps. There was this yesterday we went to Azusa. We went to this awesome camp, or it was at a beautiful park.
Mhm.
And they got bouncy houses, they do slime, they do creative arts, they do all this stuff. They're charged, and these kids, like, they had such a blast. You making like over $60,000 just in the summer. They take them to field trips to my
Play all day.
yeah, they go to the museums. You go to field trip every once in a while.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking more like I wanted to do, because I've taught from infants,
field trips.
even from infants to 5. That's been my main, and I just stepped in when I moved to Miami. As I said, Miami's such a big, broad place. When I moved to Miami, I started teaching elementary school. I started teaching middle school. I started teaching high school. Like things that I never would have thought I would do in Massachusetts. I was like, no, I'm not going into elementary school. Down there, I'm teaching 1st and 3rd grade, and I'm loving it. It's like the whole atmosphere is so different. And that's why I said I want to start something down there. I want to get into something with care and get myself out the classroom in a sense and be more on the outside and facilitating. Because
it all starts with location.
Exactly, and it's like
and if you get with yeah, and you can even just set up on the beach. Like we have, if you go on my Facebook, I set up a lot of stuff. We have Sandy Days. Go look up Sandy Days on.
My cousin has a nonprofit too down there, and he usually does things for the kids. He'll, set up events in different sides.
Yeah, you get a DJ on the beach, get some shovels and absolutely.
He sets up, and he has community events, and he'll help host community events and things like that. It's just a whole amazing thing to go down there. And I would love to bring PPCM down there, because I think that population really needs that, because it's such a melting pot, and there's so many people from different places that don't know about this stuff. And probably I'm curious to see what the death rate is down there from this, because the doctors, the way they act, is
well, we have downloadable flyers, we have cards, but yeah, it's all about visual. I'm more of a visual type of person as well. Right. So the downloadable flyers on but PPCM.
Even if I could just see those at the, maternal, fetal medicine, just so that people can just think about it, what
I always do is because it's downloadable, it's printable. Whenever I have an appointment, when you go to the bathroom just to get your glucose test or something like that. So I was whenever I have an appointment, I tape it up in the bathroom.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. You usually have because boards too. Yeah, that's a good idea though, because people, you're washing your hands and look up and you just read it.
Yeah, exactly. I put it on the bathroom door. I put it on the. I put it inside in the bathroom door when they shut the door. It's right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know the people will probably take it down, tear it up, or whatnot.
But at least it's an effort, At least we try. It feels good to say, it feels good to connect. It feels good to say, well, I tried. At least this woman would have a thought when her OB says your blood pressure is high. We'll run a BNP. I read that on a flyer. What is that? Type thing. They're going to be more curious and more inquisitive to want to know more.
Absolutely.
That's all and I think it is that we need to know more. If we talked about it more, it wouldn't happen so much,
Right. And what we don't know can hurt us is what we've learned.
Pretty much. We can't just stay silent and just say, we'll wait until the doctors feel like they need to do it, because sometimes they just don't feel like doing it. Sometimes they
Right.
just don't know. I mean, they
They
order
don't
10
know to do it.
blood. You know, they order 10
I've been
blood, and that's not one of them. I don't understand why. You know,
they
I'm
don't
curious.
know. They don't even know about the BNP. They
Yeah,
don't
some
even
doctors
know.
will be like, "What is that?" You know, or
Yeah, I have
that's for heart failure patients. You know, you get that. Well, that's not for you. And it's like, well, who's to say? Who are you? You know, like, who's to say I'm
mhm.
not a heart failure patient? You can see my heart from the outside. You know, that's what I look at it as. Like, you can't see the heart. The heart has a mind of its own. It's a muscle of its own. And when it wants to go, it goes. And when it wants to come back, it comes. You know, that's how I feel. Like,
I feel
I
like
just day
women
by day.
I feel like women are not um we're at a place where, and we've always have been, where we're minimized, we're brushed off, our voices, it's one thing to be, you know, listened to but more or less understood. And I think where we're coming from with this angle of this disease is that when you have the awareness, once you're educated with the BNP,
Yes.
and I say this, it would be really, really, really careless, especially of a obstetrician or a birthing professional, to not apply. Because
Right.
once you're educated, it's like once you get it, fine. But our fight, not just surviving, is to be really being heard at that critical
Right.
moment when you're saying, no, something is not right. I know
And I feel
something's
like
not right.
too, it's about race sometimes too. Some hospitals, I got brushed off. I'm gonna be honest, until that one OB was like, "No, this is not normal. Like any
Sure.
other patient, you guys would be screaming and jumping."
With
And
even more so, the fact that you are a Black woman, even more so, you should be taken more seriously because
our maternal
it's
fetal rate
genetic.
is
It's so high,
super high.
ridiculously high.
It's third
And
world country high. And that's it's like, why are we so subjected? You know, and
well,
then
because it's a genetic. Now, I'm
yeah, and then
Jewish.
you pick up that question and then you go in and you see why. That's the thing. They prove it to you. Like, they literally
Well,
show and prove why. Because you
yeah,
literally, like, to get any test or to get anything done, I feel like
but they've
my
known
pregnancies,
this.
I work 10 times harder than any other woman
And
just to get a freaking
absolutely,
ultrasound. Like, check this out, please.
I
So I
believe
can
it.
get out of here. It's really, and
It's a fight.
I don't even say, I say pregnancy, and just in the medical field in general, I've been failed many of times just because, the difference in our bodies, because
Mm-hmm.
our bodies react different. Like when
Yeah.
got diagnosed with like colitis and things like that, I kept going to my doctor. This is right after I had my daughter. I kept having left side pain, left side pain, left side pain. 2 years. I had smoldering diverticulitis for 2 full years.
And they
Literally had
didn't
to
even
have
know.
the
Yeah.
colon pulled out of my body because it was so bad. I got to the point where I couldn't eat. I could have fevers. I was in the hospital. I ended up perforating and going septic. But if they would have just listened to me the first time when I said I had pain and pain was not going away, it was getting worse, then maybe I wouldn't have had to go have 4 surgeries on
No,
my
you
stomach.
wouldn't
You
have.
know?
That's our fight,
And that's
though,
the thing. Like, it's like
is to be
fighting for your
heard.
life, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
To
I'm
be
gonna
heard.
die if you do not do this type thing.
It's like, and as teachers, we're like, where's your ears? Where's your mouth?
Right.
Keep it
Be
closed.
quiet.
Where's your ears? Listen. Yeah. You froze. What happened to you? She froze. So it didn't do anything, right? Hopefully not. I don't know what happened.
I don't know either. I was like, oh no.
It says recording. It says recording this whole
Yeah,
time.
it
It
did
didn't
say
end.
it stopped for a brief minute and then it recorded again. So I think we're good.
But what's amazing is that, what you were just saying is so it's really it's profound in so many ways, because, like, yes, women are since I have woken up from this maternal mortality to find out that that women are fighting to be heard, are fighting to be listened to during that critical time, and as if like, you know, we're, you know, like we don't know our bodies, and like they're telling us and not listening. It's terrible, and it's a horrible feeling to be ignored and to feel like, I feel like I've been ignored for 5 years. I'm screaming from the rooftops and no one really gives it, like I feel like nobody gives a shit until it happens
To them,
to
pretty much.
them.
Till it comes
And then
close.
they're like, oh, wait a minute, what's that test again? I've
Yeah.
been saying it for
What was
5
you
years
saying?
every
You
single
know,
day.
like you were saying something, you know, like that. I feel like that too. Like people like to throw a blind eye until it actually comes and hits them in the head, and it's like, oh, maybe I should have listened. You know?
Yeah. And I respect that, you know, as women in general, it's hard for other women to listen. Men are easier to listen to women, but when it comes to a Black woman, like you said, you have to work that much harder. You have to use your voice
It's like
that much
screaming
louder.
into the choir and nobody's listening, and it's just like, oh, you're fine. You know, but meanwhile, the same person comes in with the same symptoms, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're gonna die. And it's like, but why? What makes me so different? What makes me less of a human? That I get to go home and die, and she gets treatment. You know, like I've had things that I'm like, well, you know, if you guys would have just gave me the medicine in the beginning, I wouldn't be here. You know, like it's a lot of things could be avoided in the medical. And I think when I did have the PPCM
preventions,
that was the point when I was like, we are dying. Like, this is why Black people are dying. This is why Black women are going through birth and going home and dying, because they're going home and they can't breathe, and they just go, they just, you know, they don't want to because they know they're going to send them back home, because that's how I felt. I felt like, well, I'm going to go there, I'm going to say nothing wrong with me, and I'm going to go back home. Now I wasted 2 hours, 4 hours in the ER for them to say, oh, and send me home. You know, that's how I felt that day. So I dragged myself in there with the
but there's over 50,000 women
with the intention of going home and like not knowing what's wrong with me and just dealing with it, you know, as I did with everything else.
Yeah. Oh. And that's how when I kept going to the hospital at Cedars-Sinai in Beverly Hills, and I kept telling them over and over and over again, I kept showing up, and they kept sending me home saying that I was not ill, when currently, in fact, I was PPCM and dying of a cardiac arrest in the process of them saying that I was completely fine. Is like it
like they
there's
had 5 extra
nothing
days
more.
with me. You know, that's the thing. They had 5 extra days.
They had 3 months with me. 3 months.
Weeks prior, I was in the hospital from the day after Thanksgiving. They called me to come in. I came in the day after and was admitted, and I didn't leave until December. I had it the 13th, so I left 5 days after the 13th. So they had all this time to run a B&B.
Unacceptable.
They had all that time. They ran blood tests like crazy. They knew my hemoglobin was low. They caught that when I needed a transfusion.
But it's that one blood test.
They knew all that. My you know, I had basically my hemoglobin went down to 4, so I was going into organ failure. But it probably was a part of the heart failure too, doing it. You know, my heart's working, my organs are failing. You know, like it was like if you just would have did that B&P,
your kidneys were failing.
If you would have just did the freaking B&P right there when you did the hemoglobin at 4. You know, we could have got all this together and good. You know, I wouldn't have had a cold that night. I could have got treated maybe the next day by a cardiologist or something. And never went home to be sick. That's the whole thing. It's like you sent me home sick.
Yeah. They sent me home to die is what they did to me as well.
I feel like I had cardiac. Like, just go home and do you know?
The fact that we have come so far with the technology that you have described in the type of heart
procedures that they can do,
procedures that are
not
amazing
either. They're like
like you said, they can go up the groin, they can go right to your heart. You know, they're so advanced. It's like, what the fuck and why
are we still dying?
Are still dying? Why are we suffering? If you guys are so, and Right. And why has been known for over 30 years? This has been there's complete awareness. The American Heart Association, now you type in and they're somehow titled with peripartum cardiomyopathy,
Yeah, I
but
didn't
they've
see that
known
on there
about
before.
this.
I
Shame
have
on
to be
them.
honest. I have never seen that before until, like, you know, like you
Recently.
said, it's really
It's almost as
starting to
if
charge up.
it's almost as if like they were paid not to say something and now they're trying to catch up with the times, because
It feels
know,
like it. Like, why weren't you tell us about preeclampsia, tell us about high blood pressure, you tell us about everything else, but that one doesn't
I
come up
have
on the list.
interviewed a woman in her 60s, 70s
Hmm.
that said that she worked for the American Heart Association. Her name is Jean. She worked for the American Heart Association and she tried tooth and nail. This was over 15 years ago, to try to get them to be on board with educating and spreading the awareness. And they blew her off, they brushed it off, and they would not do anything. They continuously, there is multiple, we are the baby boomers of this, but there are women that have survived this and that have lived over 20 something years with this.
Like I said, my cardiologist followed one for 20. He had her 20 years, and her son was, I believe, 18 and 19 or something like that.
The American Heart Association and the American Cancer Association have been aware for quite some time about the BNP. The BNP has been around for over 20 years. I think it's 31 years that it's been around. So since that test has been around, that has been educated to the people who give the test, to the people who use the test.
Mainly cardiologists. Mainly cardiologists know about the test.
There is a conspiracy with the American Heart Association. Why they have not said or spoken up or have ever mentioned this until now, that finally women who are lived are saying, what the fuck?
Pretty much.
What the hell? So now they're like, oh wait.
There is
let me
let
me write on Google PPC, peripartum cardiomyopathy. Now it says American Heart Association. Fuck you.
When I first got diagnosed,
Literally.
that was not there. When in 2017, that was not there. I'll tell you right now, because I was on my phone literally as they were dying. I'm like, what did you say? You said I had, like trying to figure out what did you say I had. And he said it again. I'm Googling it.
They're playing catch up.
The literature on it was so vague that it was like, okay, what is this?
They're playing catch up. They have the right marketing tools. Right. I've been saying this for 5 years. I've contacted them so many times. They have why am I blown off, brushed off? I freaking am a healthy girl. I had my times of death called. I came back to find out that this is extremely common. The statistics do not make sense because we do not have a diagnosis. They say it's every 3 minutes a young healthy girl has PPCM and either suffers or dies. But how can you even make that statistics if you don't have a diagnosis? The whole thing is complete bullshit. Right. And I have no problem. I mean, even my niece, okay, because I said something, my niece's little friend, Jessica, her mother passed away, unfortunately, of cancer. Well, turns out, she had the Cancer Association for her birthday nonprofit choice. And so I just wanted to make her aware, it's like, I can easily say to I wouldn't be giving Hitler, money to keep killing, my people. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're giving money to the big associations that have literally withheld very important life-saving information that can be prevented. So what I was trying to do was educate the young girl and say, listen, yes, your mother passed away, but you now have the prevention, the BNP. Choose an association or a nonprofit where that the money actually supports the people.
Yeah, supports awareness. It doesn't support
the awareness and the people. The
Like,
awareness, the
that supports the
education.
suppression of it. It doesn't support the awareness. They're not putting out
Right.
there what's killing you. They're trying to
Right.
fight it as much as they can and sweep it under the rug until somebody says, "Hey, what the fuck is going on?"
Right. And here
this is not right.
I'm exactly. I'm saying, what the fuck is going on? And I'm the only one that's not afraid to speak up and say, I don't care that they're a big association. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
And so my niece actually railed me out on my PPCM Fund nonprofit support group and saying, how dare I?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here I have to defend myself with the world, basically, to try to have a voice. And it's like, now I have to try to do that with my niece and like with her friends because they're not being properly educated by the big associations.
Right.
And so that's my fight, is like, if the big associations just would have, not kept the BNP test as hidden information, maybe they would lose trillions and billions of dollars by giving the prevention, because then they wouldn't have the process of the chemo and all that stuff, and PPCM is responsible for 1 in 20 heart transplants in America. And that's a lot of freaking money. So if they give the prevention, they're going to lose that. So, potatoes. But you know what? Still, where is the justice for women and humanity, especially when it comes to big associations? There should be a line drawn,
Right.
as what they could have done and how many lives that they could have saved 15, 30 years ago, when these survivors are saying, hey, hello,
Right.
hello,
We're here, and we're
like,
not just here for
away.
no reason, we're here and we need some explanation of why
and
we weren't told this, and why we weren't given the education of this when you knew this. That's the whole thing, is when you know something and you don't tell somebody something. It's like, well,
my point.
you're just gonna sit here and watch.
Even in an individual, when you're educated and it'd be careless not to apply.
Yeah.
And that's like going back to our conversation about how it's it's like, it'd be one thing if you didn't know, but if you find out, you're educated and you purposely do not educate, or you purposely do not take that test or give that test to your pregnant woman, that your client or whoever it is that you have, it's a crime to humanity.
Pretty much. I mean, it feels like, my great-grandfather was a welder. He welded in the shipyard for years. And you know how they had like asbestos. They had all these things that were chemicals. They knew what they were doing to these people. They knew that these people were gonna, have problems from, lung issues, cancers. My great-grandfather lived almost 22 years with mesothelioma, asbestos, from working in the shipyard. They told him at his diagnosis in 1988 that he wouldn't live to be 6 months. Like 6 months, he was so bad off from working so many years, over and over with the asbestos blankets, welding. And it, that kind of, it triggered me the same way it triggered him. He was the same way. He would advocate for these people, that were shut down, and, they didn't have health insurance. They wouldn't cover them. He put his voice up like, we need help. We did all this work for America. And, first generation immigrants. We were the first people, first generation. My great grandfather was first generation immigrant. His mother was from Cape Verde. So he was first in America. And he's like, we built this city. And this is how you treat us? Like we don't get health care. We got to pay for, he was on 10, 15, 20 meds a day, just to stay alive.
Terrible.
Just to stay alive. Terrible. And he fought 22 years to stay alive, to just stay alive. To the day he died, he fought for every single man that he stood next to. Because just like me and you, it was no reason that had to happen. They could have told them. They could have said something, and they didn't. They didn't say anything. And they still refused. The most messed up part was these men were dying left and right, and they still were refusing to pay them. They weren't paying funeral costs. They weren't paying medical bills. And my grandfather sued every company from Bethlehem Steel to all the big rig companies that came in, and they fought them to the day he died. Mm-hmm. Like he literally had records like this, saying that you guys did this. And that's what it feels like. It feels like we would have like a whole book of women and said, "You guys did this. This is what you did."
Well, that's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing.
You know, like this is what you're still doing. And it's the same thing, there's still probably companies out there that weld with asbestos and still some tell their workers, still put their workers at jeopardy.
I have a fly. You know what I do? I actually, in order to show proof of like what you're talking about, the stack, proof of the stack.
Yeah.
So like basically this, docuseries and this podcast I've started and everything, it's basically it's building what you're talking about.
Yeah. Basically, like I said, once I was diagnosed with this, I felt like he had his purpose was to do that, and literally he would take packets to these big companies, and his lawyer was the most amazing lawyer in Boston, because he would literally take his stack of medical records from 22 years of pills and medical expenses. I mean, and these dollars these days, he probably spent $1 billion just to stay alive.
So this is exactly. And so when it comes to like me and trying to communicate with the American Heart Association or the American Cancer Association, the big associations that had a voice, that could have educated, I am saying to them, this is what you did,
right? By
not speaking up,
right? It's proof. It's living proof
that your awareness was not applied or educated. It's same with the ACOG. Now they're starting to get it, but when you go on their who they support, they have the whole list of every pregnancy thing under the sun except PPCM. And they're the ACOG. So when you ask even doulas, midwives, birth keepers, your curriculum is through the ACOG on how you learn. And
they don't even teach that.
There's not even a little line that, that companies have, if you pay, here are the terms, and then you get charged every month and you don't realize it. They don't even have like a little line like that for PPCM, for women. And so that is what we're doing, you and I today. We're building proof and saying to the American Heart Association, you're on board now, but this
is what you've been doing.
Your result.
Yeah, this is what's been happening.
Families.
Yeah. We are all, even the ones that are not here with us, like they are in that pile. Even the ones that are here, the ones that are not here, we're all in that stack. And that's why, I connected with you, because I felt like, my great grandfather always, he raised me, and he raised me to always advocate for whatever I believe is right. And this is wrong what they're doing. And I watched him suffer day to day because of a company that could have ended all that if they would have just said, "Hey, you guys need
having to go to some orphanage because the mother died, and then the father couldn't, and then the child. I have so many PPCM little babies that have to go to orphanages because they lost their mother,
right?
And it's because of, and I'm not saying all because of maybe the ERs, because they're the ones that have been saving these lives. They haven't really spoken up until now. Maybe it was the cardiologist. I don't know
if you ever connected with a doctor, Dr. James Fett, the one that was he's on Facebook. He the one that started. He's the one in the 80s that was in Haiti and was like, this is weird. Like this.
Yeah, he's
something
all
up.
over my website.
Yeah.
He's the IPAC research lab. That he has proven that no woman should ever suffer or die from.
He was the first doctor I ever seen that actually had like knowledge, because my doctors knew about it, but they were like vague on it. They had to read and do, they had to get back to me on a lot of things.
And
because they didn't really treat it. So like he was the first person that actually went on his went through his Facebook and seen what he did, and I was like, this is really some shit. Like he really opened up a can of worms, and we need to keep that can of worms open because he's in his 80s, 90s now, and it's like, if we keep what he had going in this technology, because he didn't have all this Facebook and shit that we got now. If we keep what he had going, this whole world would be a better place.
He is our earth angel for women that are saying, backing us up, saying that, women are dying and suffering and it doesn't need to happen. And this is why, here it is, it's medical proof. Everything, comes down to medical backup and proof,
Right.
So the fact that we do have medical backup and proof, the fact that we do have these big associations, now that they're on board, have they even collaborated with any like nonprofits that have PPCM survivors?
Right.
No, they haven't. They actually blew me off.
Wow.
And
you would think that would be the first person they'd reach out to is a survivor.
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't. They blew me off.
Wow.
And probably they're right to, because I am the only woman that is saying that's not okay.
Right.
It's not okay to blow off maternal mortality, death, women, a whole company that supports women that died with knowledge that you've been aware of that for over 30 years. It's insulting.
Right.
It insults all women intelligence. And it hurts when I see, people, choosing them, as their support for their nonprofit or birthday awareness, when women are the ones that actually give birth to give that birth date, and they're not supporting, survivors.
Right.
It's like, I don't ask for donations, because it's one of these things where you don't ask the public. You have to get funding from other sources, through, you have to get creative. People are not going to give money to women that are dying. One, we're women. Two, they would give it to a big association that's been withholding the information more than the actual people.
Right.
They're a company. You're giving money to a company,
Right.
not to the people.
Right.
When
It
you
all
give
goes
to-
to their pockets. It goes to CEO, CCO. Nobody sees
Yes.
that but them.
No. And I'm like, thousands and thousands of dollars out of my own pocket, supporting women that really, like, their copay, or if they need, is like, it's life and death. And it really is life and death. And the little donations that do come in, it goes, as soon as a woman says, it goes right to that, right to that woman, that really needs it. This is an actual, like, not association. This is actual a nonprofit that really supports women who are literally freaking suffering, or men that have to basically take on the job of what a mommy's supposed to do because she's no longer here,
Right.
And they have to get the formula.
And it's
they
not
have to
by
get all this
choice.
stuff.
It's not by choice. It's not like
No.
she chose to do that. It's because the fact that
Yeah.
that's what makes me
So
so
what-
upset is that we don't choose to be sick. We don't
No.
choose to get this. We don't choose it. It comes in, like you said, they die for no reason. And now
It's
he
preventable.
has to take on that for no, it would be so preventable. That's what
It
makes me
affects
so
the
mad.
whole family.
Yeah.
And that's why I get so, passionate about, calling out bullshit, because it's like, what the hell, and I know, like, I got, some, crap for saying stuff like this and, speaking up. But again, it's one of these things where we shouldn't have to feel censored
Right.
or be censored with something that's the painful truth.
Right.
Literally,
Yeah.
what we go through. We're the ones that's suffering.
Yeah.
They're not. We're buying, like, the people are supporting them, by their houses, by their cars, by their whatever. What is it being used for? Maybe they give some to labs, maybe they give some of the money to cardiologists, but really,
I think
when
it's
you
like what, a
have
quarter of it goes
information-
in their pocket, and like maybe 5% may go to, out of
Education's
every
free.
dollar or something. It's something real tricky, and it's like
Yeah, awareness is free.
all that
Education is
money,
free.
like all that money, and that's how you divide it. Like you would think you just 100% to the cause,
All they had to say on their website, the American Heart Association, is that, heart awareness during pregnancy, BNP test awareness over 30 years ago, it would have been known, the BNP would have been known, like the word cancer, it would have been out there, and it would have been, you know, an actual standard for raising the standards for all women in pregnancy and heart
Well, at least
health.
the thought,
But
at least the thought in the head, you know, at least the thought in the head to somebody, you know, to a doctor or a nurse, hey, run that BNP, you know, just for giggles, you know, just
well,
see what it is.
You know that they did it for themselves and for their families. You know that once you had the information, they did it for their families.
Right.
But, you know, withholding that information is like so unacceptable because it's so preventable. Heart failure for women and childbirth is preventable, so there is no excuse.
Right.
Other than
you drop the ball. That's all it is you drop the ball on us and basically
they drop the ball.
But now ourselves.
Yeah, but people are still like, it's like I say, I'm Jewish. It's like giving money to Hitler.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like they are part of killing the community, the people. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you're choosing their association to give money to when
nobody's seeing it but them.
Easily, a simple blood test would have saved lives.
And all that money, you would think they could buy, what are they, $180 a piece? They can stock up on little, you know, hospitals and give them X amount of free tests and, you know, let them use that on their high risk. You know, like the ones that are really high risk or show any type of symptom that maybe, you know, just maybe, you know, that one little.
Or maybe just even getting their IT tech to actually write on their website the BNP.
Yeah.
You know, it's the information for saving lives is free. The information is free.
Yeah.
There's no money to say, hey, know your BNP number and you won't suffer and die after pregnancy, and your baby might not die either. And guess
you
what?
won't have lifelong complications. You won't have to worry about relapse. You won't have to worry about being on meds for the rest of your life. You won't have to worry about getting breathed out by going downstairs, you know? Like, it's some days where you're just like being this disease, you know? Like, you're just like, it just hits you. And it's like to think that if that one, you know, test could have just took me to somewhere else in life and had me normal, you know, you can't really say, well, it wouldn't, but it sure would have helped, you know?
Yeah.
It sure would have helped to know.
If the American Heart Association had educated that, then I wouldn't be fighting with teenagers, or I think my niece is now 20 and her little friends and them basically like cursing me out that I'm like either scaring them or, you know, whatever it is.
I say be very scared, you know, be very aware, be scared. To be scared is to be aware. In my head, if you're scared, that means you know something's going on. So if you have that in there, you're scared, you're going to ask for that test. You're going to say, I want that because I'm scared. You know, like, to be scared is sometimes not a bad thing.
And I said to her, I'd rather know the test and my results and prevent it than have my times of death called and suffer and possibly not live. So, I mean, like, it's ridiculous, but it's not being educated by the people that should be educating. So it makes it even that much harder. Me as a woman that has a nonprofit,
right,
just like the American Heart Association. But the thing is that I'm, you know, and I'm not the heart. I'm specifically with pregnancy and the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess maybe there's, you know, a lack of, I don't know, compassion. There's definitely, there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
And it's really quite a pattern,
right,
and a correlation with women and these big associations with knowing, and now women saying and trying, and survivors trying to educate the way it should have been educated.
Right.
And it's like, they're like, well, why are we hearing this from you? I've never heard of PPCM. I've never heard of the BNP. Well, why haven't we heard?
Right.
Why?
It's not new. It's 30 years old to be exact, like you said. It's not like something that just, you know, like, you know, came out the air. it's kind of like, well, you kind of knew about it, but you just didn't do anything about it. You know, like
Right.
you just kind of was like,
Which suffered
keep it
lives.
here. Yeah, we'll see how it goes type thing. As I felt like, it was like, well, we know, but we'll see how people do with it, or we'll see how many people die. It feels like they kind of just was like, well, we'll see what happens. We're not going to say much because
Right. And
that shouldn't have been going through 3 pregnancies. That should have been the first time I heard that. And I think when you really think about it, going through 3 pregnancies, that shouldn't have been the first time I heard that.
Right.
Especially for it to be.
I'm interviewing women that are Mormons that have like literally like 7 pregnancies, and they've never heard this. Even on their 7th, their 7th. I remember it was like 2 of them had like 6 or 7 pregnancies, and it was the last one. I said, well, how do you know that you weren't even prior?
Right.
You don't know because you were not diagnosed.
Right. It could have been, from the first baby down. And I
absolutely.
But nobody said, hey, let's do an echo on your heart and run that BMP. Like nobody said that to me. The most they said was after my daughter, my second one, and that was because when you get a lot of C-section, you get the pain meds. That makes your heart rate go high. That's all I had.
And we're not in the 1900s anymore.
Yeah.
We're not in the 1800s anymore.
Right.
We're not in the 1700s anymore.
Exactly.
But we're definitely not in the 1900s anymore. I mean, our technology is like, but what's interesting is that the women that I have interviewed that are the elderlies of the PPCM, the ones that have been survived longer than 20 something, 30 years, and I've interviewed them, there is 0 movement and 0 difference of a woman that I interview that has been survived for 30 years plus to a woman, a young girl that's 20 something years old, with literally holding a baby, being interviewed, holding a baby in her arms. There has been 0 movement between that woman that the women that I interview that had the same symptoms, the same issues, the same pattern as that over 30 years ago, as the same woman that's today in 2020. It was 2021 and 2022.
Right.
0.
It shouldn't be.
0.
It should be.
They say the exact same thing.
Right.
The exact same symptoms. The exact same pattern.
It should be known by now. Yeah, it should be known. Like,
there should be some sort of there should be a different anything. There should be something that's, I do listen when I hear, like I pick up these key things, and the only key things that I hear is that there has been 0 movement, there has been 0 progression, 0 listening respect from the time for a woman. I still can't believe it, an elderly woman to a woman that is so young, and there's been no change.
You would think that the new diagnosis and the old, you would think that it would be more like, oh, well, they caught that, but they didn't catch it. It's nothing.
0 movement.
It's the same thing. It's like how women have not the same thing twice, and
and that's going to change in our era.
Yes.
Just like again, we have social media,
yes.
We have Zoom.
This is our blessing, is that we have a way to freely TikTok. We have Instagram, especially TikTok. TikTok has been like the blow up.
Oh, tag TikTok. It's a whole nother thing. I woke up from my times of death. I'm like, what? I'm like, there's Instagram? What's Instagram? And I was like in a coma that long? And like, now I got to learn another medium. Like I thought, Facebook, and then, you have LinkedIn, and you have Twitter, and then you have Instagram. If you have a TikTok, I have a TikTok page. Just tag. It's like PPCM Survivors.
I'm gonna follow you now. I know you. I just started getting on TikTok. I don't have any videos yet, but I'm definitely. It's a whole nother world, because it shows you.
It's too much.
It shows you things you never knew about. It shows you how to do things you never knew you could do, and I feel like PPCM on TikTok would just be like, how many people we probably would have in our inboxes?
Oh yeah, I learned on TikTok that this picture right here on the apple, it's a touch. It's a button.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, you got to go into your settings and turn it on. But
Oh,
you can
wow.
set it as either a flashlight, as a camera, as a screenshot.
See?
Yeah, you can
You
like
bought the
literally
phone and you know that.
you touch it and it's like it's amazing. I think I have mine on flash, which
Yeah.
if I touch it right, hold on. I think I
That's
turned
pretty
it
cool.
off. But yeah, you this Apple thing behind you is an
And
actual
TikTok
button.
taught you. That's the funny thing. TikTok taught me.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. TikTok taught me that.
Yeah, so as I said, it's amazing how many platforms we do have, and like not to take advantage of this would be silly. It would just be silly to not take advantage of it. And knowing that these cases are getting younger and younger, these are 19, 20-year-olds
I
that are
know, they're
dying,
so young.
that are
They're so
dying by the
young.
way. Like hold on, like to be.
And if they live, and if they live, well, the ones that one passed away, but when you live and you're so young, like Kelsey Cruz,
I was gonna
it's
say
like-
that one there was I hit. She got sick around the same time I did, and I was just like, that shit could have been me. Like it's really like when you get to that point, you're like, these people are humans. Like they're the same. They share the same disease we share, and it's like we could be them. And it's like we're blessed.
18.
We're blessed to not, but it's like we gotta get this out there. We gotta.
Yeah, but also the coping skills. See, I'm older, whereas when I talk to a woman, even as a girl that's like 18, 19 years old that just had a baby, the coping skills and to learn how to cope comes with experience as well as like living.
Yeah.
You learn how to cope when you're that young.
Right.
And these girls that are just giving birth at like 18, 19 years old that survived a new heart transplant when their heart was perfect. And, they were preserved in like, I was frozen. But I think she was preserved in a water tank. That's why she couldn't touch water for a while. Like she couldn't even take a bath because she could like drown. At that, being that young and having your body preserved and having a new heart and just having a baby and expect to live a normal life. You don't have those coping skills that if you were like, let's say in your 40s, you've already lived. You have these coping skills. Maybe you have certain calm, relaxed techniques when you are, you're feeling like, okay, I had heart failure. They told me I have anxiety. I'm having anxiety right now, but am I having heart failure? Because then there's that gray area of like between anxiety and heart failure. Because then it's like, okay, am I having a panic attack, anxiety, or heart failure? Now it's becoming a mental health issue that could possibly stop your heart. Yeah. Because you're worried.
Yeah, I actually did. I tried therapy after too because it was a lot of trauma. Yeah. It was, my marriage broke down, and that was it because it, like I said, it's an invisible disease. It's something you can't explain to your spouse. It's just it happens, and it's like, I was at 25%. Sorry. Taking care of 3 kids with 25% heart rate, by yourself is shit tough. And I'm the type of person that I will voice my opinion. And, he felt like there was nothing wrong with me. Taking 4 bottles of meds a day, 3 times a day, there's nothing wrong with me. I should be better by it. And, it's like, yeah, that's not how it works, and there's no way to educate people that this disease doesn't tell you what it's going to do. Like I have days where I feel great. Like I said, I have days I feel great. And I had days where I feel like I don't even want to get out of bed because I can just feel my heart rate is just too high. Like and then don't let me be stressed. Don't let it trigger. It just takes your body through a whole nother type of experience that you really shouldn't have to feel until you're in your 60s and 70s, 80s.
Absolutely. It ages what you're experiencing and what I'm experiencing and what most women experience surviving something like this is what the elderly is what we should have when we're old, not young.
Right.
It was when I had the defibrillator and I knew to get into the pool. I knew my heart rate, it was 2%, you know, it was, my heart severely was damaged.
2%, that's, as I said, I was told 25% is like, you know, they give you that recovery rate, and 25%.
I should be brain dead.
Yeah, that's I said. 25% was having them scratch their heads, so I can just imagine what 2% was doing to all of them. Like, they must have been just like, "How are you even alive?" You know?
Yeah,
that's the power of God. If He wants you,
that is the power of God.
He is going to have you here. I don't care what you go through, you know. Like
right.
I said,
you can have the best or worst doctors in the world.
You know,
it's the man.
Yeah.
If it's not your time,
shock. I should be gone by now twice. That was the third time that I had almost died. You know, like I said, I had my hemoglobin went low. I was going in organ failure. That was the first time. Then the PPCM took my ass out, and you know, the last time was I went septic, and literally my colorectal surgeon was like, "I don't even know how I fixed you," like, you know,
because they didn't. It was like you were. It was like I said, and I'm not just saying this. I mean, I really know. I mean, I had my time. I went there. I know it. I visualize it. It's not a dream. It is physically there, as if it is as real as life. When your soul being and your soul spirit merged, you healed.
Yeah.
You went to a heal. It's like a healing dimension,
right?
And sent you back. And I had time to evolve at that healing dimension. I mean, this is a whole other conversation. You know, I physically remember, I had outer body experiences with it. You know, I didn't go to the tower sands. I stayed where, you know, the grass was green and I was still grounded, you know, which is why I saw green, being grounded by earth, and the light was on the ground and nothing was, and it was a healing. It's
surprising to say that, because I was like, you know, I tried to explain to people like I said, I literally, this is what I remember before I coded. I put a movie on. You know, I was so tired because they had been poking me all day, you know, the EKGs, ECG, all types of, you know, screenings, because they didn't know what to do with me. You know, I'm on the floor with people that are 50, 60, 70 years old. So they're trying to figure out what's the best plan for this 26-year-old that has heart failure. You know, in their eyes, it's heart failure. That's all they know what to call it. You know, so I was just like tired. I remember that. Put the TV on and I fell asleep. Like, I literally, as soon as I put the TV on, I passed out. Like, I just remember, I just like, my eyeballs couldn't even stay open. I was so tired from the whole day of being poked. And that's all I remember. And then I remember going into like, I have my great grandmother raised me. I was raised by my great grandparents. And I just remember like I explained the story and everybody's like, wow. Because I'm like, we were together. Like, she had passed away probably like a year and a half before I got pregnant with my daughter. And I was like, we were together. We had this good conversation. As I said, I believed them when they said I was out for about 30 minutes, because it felt like we were sitting there for hours, you know? Like, and then she said, well, I got to go, you know? And it was like, we were, like you said, it was green grass everywhere. It was beautiful outside, sunny day. And it was like the street. I just remember it was the street. She had to go across the street. I couldn't see what the hell was across that street. It was cars. That's all I see. I stepped off the sidewalk. Nope, you cannot go. And that was the you cannot go.
Wow.
I am a real defiant person. I've always been with her. Like, with her, I've always been like, I'm doing it. You know, like everything no. She always was no. You know, she was always like one of those old grumpy old ladies. But she wanted you to do it, but she didn't want you to do it. She didn't want to feel like a burden. So I'm like, I'll walk you across, you know, and she pushed me back and she was like, nope, you cannot go. And I lost sight of her. She went where she was going. I lost sight of her. And that's why I said I woke up, because I literally like tripped trying to get back on the sidewalk. And I don't know what that did, but it like triggered myself to wake up. I don't know if that's when it shocked me, but it was like I woke up and I just remember like being in this cold, like, because they had like ice packs all around me. They had all types of shit around me. They had me, strapped to all types of things. I had no clothes on. I'm like, how the hell did I even get like this? I couldn't talk. I just remember I couldn't talk. I couldn't breathe. It was just like so much going on at once. And I'm looking around like, can y'all help me? Like, can somebody help me? And it's just
That's
like,
amazing.
they didn't know exactly what to do.
I've never went there really with this, but so you saw, your family member that she was there with you. Now,
I've always had like
I
always
now
say this,
energy.
like, I've always had like these, I don't know,
So,
like I have these feelings, like like these,
so
I know
yeah,
them.
absolutely.
And it was
So
like it wasn't my time, and I kind of felt that's why I did not push it out. Because
So-
it kind of was like it backs me up.
So to confirm that what you experienced on the other side is completely just as reality. And I'm looking at the clock and it's 2:34. That's when my dad passed. It's like whenever I see 2:34, 1:11, they're here. Okay,
Yeah.
so energy has been around for over 500 billion years. It never dies. Our soul being and our soul spirit are energy.
Yeah.
We never die. We transform.
Yeah, I was always
like
told
when
that
you-
the body is just a physical vessel, and
It's just
soul,
a vessel.
It's just
Right.
physical.
But our soul, yeah. And if you go on my Facebook, it's a private group and I haven't put it out there. It's Proof of the Other Side. I actually captured somebody that died and I captured what I'm talking about. It was floating up.
Wow.
Now I took my camera and I ended up capturing it, and it was a gray day, and the guy ended up driving into a scaffold, and I caught it floating up. So go on Proof of the Other Side on Facebook. If you go to PPCM, the main group on Facebook, and then you go to groups, it's there. You can actually see it. But what you were talking about now, I saw my grandfather, and so he was carrying me, and I had time to evolve. So when you say that, you saw green and it was a beautiful day and the sun was shining or whatnot, that's the light that was like healing you. So when he was holding me, we were having this conversation, and he was holding me as if I was was young, like a baby, not like young, but kind of like how I remember him when I was younger.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so he was telling me that, it's that I won't understand, and that I will be very confused, but that just to know that it's that you're being sent back, and you're not going. For you, it was crossing the street.
It was
for you, it was crossing the street.
This way.
For me, what I saw, and that's interesting. You said that. See, yours was a curb in a street. For me, mine was like a valley of green grass. The sky was completely dark, not a star, not a bright anything, nothing. But the ground was very bright. And I kept saying to my grandfather, why is the ground, how is the ground so bright, but there's nothing, there's no sky bouncing off of it? Like, where is the sun on the ground? Or, I was confused, like, as he was saying. But what he was saying is that the green grass was keeping me grounded to life, to earth.
Right.
And that the light that I was seeing, or, that you saw, that was a beautiful day, was the healing. It was healing the infection in the body, and it was healing the vessel. We're zombies. We came back as like, we have zombie issues now. As we say.
Right.
But what he was saying is that there was a very distinct line where it was like, it was no longer green grass. It was like, and you could see on Proof of the Other Side, I was trying to find a picture that resembled what I saw. So I captured it as much as I could, but it looked like, like when you make sand castles, it has that like sand, towers.
Yeah.
And it was a divided line that was no longer grass. It was sand. It looked like a desert. And he says, you're not going there. Because I'm an explorer by nature. I'm a location manager. I'm a team star. I like to explore. And it was no. you're not going in there.
That's the crazy part. Like you said, it was like, you can't do that. You can't
do that. You're not.
Like I tripped my own self trying to get back.
And that's a very real thing between our soul spirit and our soul being.
Right. Because all of me wanted to go. All of me was just like,
see with me. I was like, what's that? What's going on with that?
I ain't seen you in 2 years. Like, what do you mean? I can't go.
Right. Exactly. And that's so amazing that you have a similar experience when you coded. And because I feel like, when people are sad because, I lost my mom and my dad that I was very close with afterwards, but they show me very significant signs. When I was crying on the phone, I was having, it was interesting, but I was listening to, I worked on Ghost Whisper with Jennifer Love Hewitt, and I have a few friends that are mediums, and I was having a conversation, and every time I would say the word mom, or she would say the word mom. Oh yeah,
that was one of her.
That was my show for like 6 years.
Yes,
I was on that show for I think it was 4 years. I think 6 years was on.
She loved that show.
She, every time, and I recorded it, and my husband's sleeping next to me, and it wasn't in the place where we're living now, but every time I said the word mom, the light would go on and off, on and off. And it was one of those knobs that you had to turn, and it never went on. It was a dimmer.
Right.
So I was really confused. And it was amazing that whenever there's like a 111, there's always a confirmation after that. Like, so it's either a warning or, a message. Like, and you have to be open to listen to that, the dreams that we have that are so surreal, when it's a dream when someone comes to you as opposed to a dream when you're just dreaming.
Yeah.
It's powerful. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. I lost my earpiece. Hold on. What I think we should do is we should have a whole other conversation about this.
I didn't even realize the time. I'm just looking like, oh my goodness.
I know.
I'm sorry, it took me so long.
No, I'm glad. I love.
We got so into everything.
I know. We have so much to talk about.
Yes, we definitely should do this again.
Yeah, let's schedule another time.
Yes, whenever you
talk about
solely open.
Let's solely talk about, I guess, what most people, we got our $1 million question answered.
Yeah, even if we could turn this into a podcast,
absolutely,
this would be amazing. Like I said, my cousin, he runs a podcast out of Miami. And he's always asking me for new ideas and asking me for new different, things to put on. And I have like a laundry list of things, and he's like, you write the show and I'll host it. He has all that. He's like, I will host it. I want this. I want, it to be his basic movement is to get different opinions on different, things like this, women's health, different things. He's into artists, different local artists. He does it all.
Well, we should dive in. You and I should dive in on a solely about, touch upon that, we coded through PPCM, but we should definitely talk about, more on the reality of, how when we lived, how we evolved.
Right. And it changed us. It really has changed me. I know personally it changed me.
Absolutely.
So I know there's other women that have, like you said, probably had me and you had similar experiences, and we don't even know each other.
Exactly.
That was to finally find somebody that knows what I see, and to see almost the same in a different version
on the other side.
That's why I was like, holy cow, finally, because everybody looks at me like, because they never even experienced things like that.
Right.
My mom is 55 years old. She's never died. She's never coded. The lady never even been in the hospital for longer than a day. The most she's been in the hospital is the C-section.
This is another type of conversation that's a niche.
Yes.
And focus solely on, the transition And then when we woke up, how we realized the the transit, we physically went there.
Went through it, yeah.
We physically transformed in a sense.
Yeah.
And now we came back, we have zombie issues, but there's that moment that really needs to be, we got the $1 million question answered. And you and I are not the only two women from this disease that didn't experience that probably doesn't know if this even should be brought up, because will anybody believe? And
it's something that gives you a crazy feeling. You're like, I don't even know if that really happened, but it did happen.
No, there's a correlation. But what I was trying to say is that, and we're going to have a whole different interview on solely about the transition of when you code and what happens. But what I was being told, and I remember, it wasn't a dream. It was like real, like how you were sitting with your grandma. She was your grandma, right?
Yes.
And I was sitting with my grandfather. Now, that's real time. Maybe not in this lifetime.
Right.
But that was real time, real energy that never dies. Two souls connecting and communicating on what's happening. And I was told literally that I was being healed. I said, from what? I didn't even remember. I didn't even remember that I had a baby. I didn't remember anything on the other side. I was so confused.
Right.
But I was told that as well. This is extremely, nothing's going to make sense. This is very confusing. And I was confused. I think by the third time I coded and I was pronounced dead over 30 minutes, each cardiac death, that I had time to evolve, where I came back every time I went, I had a little bit more of an understanding of what was happening.
Right.
And when I woke up, the very first thing I remembered was that. It wasn't like as if like I woke up and I didn't know. The nurse said to me, welcome back. I'm so glad to see your eyes.
Yeah, that was one of the nurses. She said, wow, you made it.
You made it. Welcome back.
She was actually shocked that I came back because, like I said, I was on a cardiac intensive care unit. Usually when you code, you're done. That's it. They're cleaning your room after,
I had basically a tag on my toe. I was freezing like a popsicle. I was in a hypothermia
She's like,
coma.
I'm shocked you're back. I'm like, well, was I not supposed to go?
Right. I'm like, where was I? Oh wait, I remember. You don't have to tell me. I it's a whole other conversation that I think is it's one of those things that I think people, unless they experience them themselves, they don't believe it.
Yes.
And no, that's something that you and I should talk about, because honestly, that's a whole other podcast that could PPCM survivors that actually coded, and went there and
I know there's more of us.
And we should all
states out here. I know there's more of us.
There should be like 4 or 5 of us in each screens.
Right.
All talking about that. And let's find them and then let's do that.
Yes, I am all on board. You have my email. You have me on Facebook. I'm definitely down to do this again. And like I said, my cousin has literally in Miami when I get back.
Even if it takes us a year or 2.
And have you, even advocate, he reaches, a lot of predominantly Black voices. He goes predominantly to, the areas where people don't really look, like the cities where they get shut out from help. He puts the light on them. And this is something that, I had on my list that we're going to put the light on.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. He said, come up with anything. He's like, I want to hear. He's like, I want women on my show. This is what he said. I want women.
Yeah, let's find, like, you and I, like, we now have like a little bit of a mission from our mission.
Yes.
The calling of our mission.
Yes.
Even if it takes us a year, you find like 1 or 2 other women, and I find 1 or 2 other women that are PPCM, that have coded and all talk about it for the first time, not about PPCM. That's not the conversation anymore. We already know about PPCM.
Right.
We're talking about from the moment we coded, and see if
that's a whole nother experience.
See if there's a correlation.
Not all PPCM is cold, but majority do.
That's what I'm saying. The only ones that have actually coded, the ones that actually have their times of death, that have proof of cardiac death. That's what my thing says. Mine says cardiac death. So,
they were counting. They had me out. They shocked me. They said they had me out for 25, 30 minutes. And before that, they were watching me go out because they could see, it's the cardiac care unit. So they were like, we were watching the monitor for about 15 minutes to see if your heart would just come back, to do its own thing. So, you put those times together, that's about 2 hours of just dying, pretty much,
Yeah,
and not knowing if we're going to be able to get back.
60, mine was an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah. So it's about on the other side. And then you got to count the time of them getting you back. I had the injection where they stopped my heart again because my heart rate was still 200. I was still going through whatever I was going through.
They had 12 heating. My husband said they had 12 heating blankets on me, and it took them days to thaw me out. Days.
I just know that was like. I just remember
we need to do this. We need to find.
Yes.
We need to have like 6 people in the chat room.
Yeah.
Or 4. Like how they do with that Amber Heard and Johnny Depp thing. They have they have the behavioral therapists, and they're like, okay, go shoot, Chase. You're what you got. They're always like calling on the person to speak next on the correlation and patterns.
Right.
So
right.
we need to get like at least 2, one. I'll find one, you find one, and that's 4 of us, and then we could have like literally, it could be huge. It's so enlightening because we got our $1 million question answered, and we have been there. So experience does have all the proof. And so I show the proof too on my, I don't put it out there at all, my group site on Facebook, Proof of the Other Side. But no, let's do that. Let's reconnect and, see what we can find.
Yes, definitely. Whenever you have time, I know you're super busy. I'm going back to Miami in about 2 weeks. So I still have a little bit of time here in Boston.
Even if it takes us a year.
Yeah, I mean, time is literally, the more we make it more content. If it takes us a year, if it takes us 2 years,
whatever.
If the content is good, then it's worth it. If we get our purpose is done in that 2 years, a year, hey, we might get it together in 6 months. We might have so much that we could just push it all together in 6 months. And
I would love the diversity.
Good content, then it's going to sell.
I would love the diversity too of, like you're Black, I'm Jewish. We need a Filipino or Asian or Latino, and have like that diversity that it doesn't matter. We all have a soul spirit. We all have a soul being. And when we die, that merges. And so we all experience the same thing, because this is our vessel, so if we can, man, if I can find I don't know if Miranda, if she actually, coded or remember, but she's Latino. But yeah, I mean, if we have diversity, you're Black, I'm Jewish.
Yeah, definitely. It will spark some attention.
Yeah, absolutely. We're
definitely.
We have.
It's going to get some attention.
We'll be covering our women basis. You with Black women, me, with Jewish women, and the Latino, women, and the Filipino women, or we're like the voices or the leaders of our womanhood of our people, And
Yeah, for the
so
culture.
for culture,
We're saving it. We got to save ourselves.
yeah,
Nobody's going to throw us the lifeboat.
nope.
Nobody's going to throw us the life raft. We got to save ourselves. If it's not us advocating for us, then who else
And
is
our
going to do it?
sisters, and our fellow
Who else is going
sisters.
to do it?
No one. No, absolutely no
No.
one. And that's what I realized when I kept trying to find, ways, and I started this nonprofit and this podcast and, the docuseries. I was waiting for other people to do it. I was waiting for, let's say, Let's Talk PPCM, Let's Talk PPCM, or I was waiting for others, because my mom and dad passed away, and I was grieving really bad. And, I was thinking, why hasn't anybody say anything? Why isn't anybody,
Well, I remember the one that passed away. I think her name was Caroline. The one, the Caroline. I can't remember her name. Caroline.
No, her name was Catherine.
Someone was C. Catherine. Yeah, I'm like something with a C.
Well, they started PPC, the big main group.
She was going from state to state, doing what, meeting people and, doing all this. And I was just like, that's something, that we all should be doing at one point in our lives, trying to advocate, because she was taking time out. She had rough things going on in her personal life.
Yeah.
She still chose that over everything. And, God rest her soul. That was probably like, I feel like she accomplished what she wanted to in life. And that's why God said, it's okay.
Yeah.
And rest. Because I felt like that was her piece, was getting out there. And she connected a lot of people with a lot of different sources, and she did a lot in a little bit of time. And, I feel like that's what I kind of wanted, after I seen her, she was a real good inspiration to find, like you said, to find people and to put us all together and let us do, advocate for each other. Because she's the one that was like, we got to put footwork in, no matter what's going on in our lives. If we're getting divorced and the kids is driving me nuts, still, I need to focus on this. I need to go to this state.
I'm the same way. I mean, we're compelled. Like you said, it changed us.
Yeah.
It changes you. And we do have a purpose. We did live. It's our mission. We are messengers from the other side to say that the BNP test is a simple blood test. Start using it. Start applying it.
Yes.
We are pointing fingers because, unfortunately, women have been dying since the beginning of time. Once it's, like you said, if it wasn't known, acceptable. The fact that it was known, unacceptable. And no one's going to do it. And that's why that saying is so real. Why hasn't someone has done anything? Oh, I'm that someone. You're that someone.
Right.
Whoever steps up and says something is that someone.
Right.
And I was sitting waiting. I kept saying to my husband, why isn't anyone really building the platform, really stepping up, really talking about it, really getting women together, really starting to not try to say, okay, make it so loom and gloom and say, it's mortality. No, it's the prevention for healthy heart health awareness for women. It doesn't have to be, save women because they're suffering. No, save women before they're suffering. There's a different.
That's the main. Yes.
There's a spin.
I totally agree. Definitely agree.
We'll try every approach just to be heard. But I think that the coding is I'm very interested in that. I'm connected with that. On a spiritual level, I think that people, when they lose a loved one, they think it's goodbye forever, when it's not. It's just goodbye for now. There's different, levels of life, and the other side is also a form of life. It's just not.
It's so funny because for years, it started with my dad. I just had, it started with my dad. And from there, I didn't know what it was back then. My dad died when I was maybe 11, 10. And I didn't know what it was back then. But I feel, like you said, the spiritual feels feels things, and like to have a conversation with you on that, and that's, like you said, that's a whole nother
It is, and
conversation.
I want to dive deep in that with
Yes,
you.
yes.
I think
I have some experiences where you'll be like, wow,
me too.
like that is very interesting,
and I have proof. You have proof.
Yeah.
We should solely talk about the proof and show. Let's show it. Let's show the proof. Like I said, I have so much documentation of real proof, but at the same time, the proof is with you and I of saying, you were there too. You were there with your grandmother. I was there.
Right.
We all see different things.
Yeah, it's like being on a parallel. Like you're not the same, but it's like the kind of, they parallel each other. It's not all the same, but it's like the same kind of concept of it. It's ironic. It's just
like the green,
ironic,
the green grass and the light is the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. Not metaphor, but it's the same. No, you're not crossing the street. No, you're not crossing that line. There's similar.
As I said, it runs parallel. Like we might have been in different situations, but we had the same kind of results coming at us. Like we couldn't go one certain direction that we wanted to at the end of the day, and we're both here today to talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's like we ran parallel. Yours was your grandfather, my grandmother.
Let's dive deep in that.
Yes.
I think you and I should do one. I think you and I should do one introduction of that, and then bring on and have like how the behavioral therapists do for Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. So it's like I was like obsessed with watching it, but like
my boyfriend was too.
Yeah.
He loves Johnny.
Love Johnny. Love him. But no, we should definitely do a like where I would say, Williams, your turn, like what is your say on this, and whoever the woman is, and if you watch the behavioral therapists on how they do it, they really do, they connect with similar patterns, and then it grows into other, it relates with the other some relate more with one or the other, but it can be a huge an awareness attraction, because we're not putting PPCM on the forefront. We all died from PPCM. We also came back from PPCM, but it's not about PPCM. It's about the transition and us, how it changed us, and why we're here as a purpose now, and our messages and what we want to say.
It will make our message. I think it will make our message even stronger.
I do too.
We are able to say, hey, this shit is real.
Yeah.
This shit is real.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that can say they came back. Like I said, my mom is 56 years old and not once has had a near-death experience where she has coded, or where, her heart has stopped and, the body fights.
Yeah.
She's never experienced that. So it's hard to talk, it's hard to talk to other people that don't know, because they just see it as, oh, well, I'm sorry that happened to you. They don't, like me and you, we're like, well, damn, that happened to me too. That's just like, kind of a correlation.
People always ask me, what do I see on the other side? What happened? What did I,
I get that question too. What really happened? And it's like, it's not like the movies on the day right now.
Right. And leading up to it either, it's like, you are walking of the dead. It's like, because half of your body has already merged, and you're just being told where to go, what to do, but because I blacked out. I completely blacked out. I said, how did we get to Arizona? I didn't remember the drive. I said, I didn't remember what I ate. I didn't remember anything, because I was already on the other side, even though I was still here.
Right.
And I was walking and I'm still doing my thing. I was already.
That was with me when I went sepsis. I remember when I went sepsis. That whole day was the third time that I died, because literally, like, my whole body was in shock.
Yeah.
And like, even my surgeon said, like, we had to pump you with so many different kind of meds and different type of antifungal and anti-infection, because the infection literally was like spreading. And I can't tell you, from the moment I woke up, I just remember going in the ambulance and being at the hospital.
Yeah, my infection was really bad.
I had an ostomy bag.
Did you have a fever too? I had 105 fever.
See, that's the thing. I went through heart failure with no fever.
Oh, lucky you.
Okay. Every nurse was like,
Lucky you.
every
Oh
nurse
God.
was like, this thing's broken. Like, no fever. My body does amazing with regulating temperature.
Wow.
Like, they were like, you went through heart failure at 98.9. The only time I had is when I told
You got a strong vessel.
Yeah. The only time is when I told it, they put the ice packs on me because they were afraid that my body was going to overheat. But honestly, I don't think it did. I think they just did that as like a just in case, you know, because there was so much going on. Because I remember, like, I was just covered in like ice packs all over my body. You know, like I felt like I was in a.
You were covered in ice packs. I was frozen, but I was covered in heating blankets. There were
they had. I remember I was like my lips were shit. I couldn't talk, but my lips were like blue. I just remember my lips were blue because I was so cold.
Yeah,
every part of my body had like. I'm like, what are you guys preparing to put me in a freezer or something?
Well, I always say it's a good thing that pain has no memory except for the memory that we experienced pain, but we don't actually physically feel that pain. I'm so grateful that memory has no pain.
I just remember trying to talk and trying to ask. I remember my brain wanted to know what was going on because I had no clue. Like I said, I couldn't talk. Everybody's just looking at me like, don't talk, because I literally had no voice.
Yeah.
It was like every time I went to go speak, I was going like that's all I could say was because I was just like still, you know, my heart was still trying to fight. You know, my body was still fighting. So it was an experience.
Well, you're a miracle, and I'm so glad that we connected.
We both were here for a purpose, and we need to.
When did we connect? I
think I found you. I don't know how. I was on one of the PPCM. I think I'm in that group, and I think you posted on the group, and I was just like, I'll do it. You know, like I was just like, it's time. I need to start getting my voice out. You know, I really.
Did I ask you? I asked you to be interviewed. Did I say?
No, I actually did the calendar. I went to it was like a link you had.
Yeah.
And I just put my name on the calendar, and I was like, it's probably going to be I'm thinking it's going to be like some generic little thing. Like, you know, I didn't think it was going to be this deep and this good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, go on YouTube and type in PPCM Fund, and you can see this past November was like November 2022, you know, relapse because muscle has memory, and, you know, and around the time that you've given birth or that you've coded is the time that you relapse, because that's the time that your heart remembers. So you be good to yourself around those times. So around November, December, when I interviewed Miranda, you'll see I was really full. I was full of fluid. And you know, and then you see me now, which is only a few months, and I'm back to me again. So you see, you click on like the interviews of the docuseries that was filmed around the time that I wasn't well. You can see the difference, So
I've seen basically my hands and my feet were my main difference, because when I went, I remember being home and walking on the ground and feeling the top of my feet. I had so much fluid on my feet.
Yeah,
it felt like Jello was shaking on the top of my feet.
Yeah. I had the same feeling.
Like you had Jello on top of your feet. You're walking like.
It was like weird. Oh my gosh, I remember that.
I'm like, what is wrong here?
I couldn't even run away from myself, even if I tried. I remember that.
Yeah, and then I remember walking to the kitchen. My kitchen, like my dining room table was no more than like maybe 20 feet, if that. You know, my house was not, my first floor was really like, you know, kitchen, dining room. And I remember just going in the kitchen like, damn, I can't breathe. Like, what's wrong with me, you know? Like, just trying to make it through, you know? And I was breastfeeding, so I'm sitting there pumping tired, you know? Like, it was just like, oh my God, you know? It felt like an elephant was literally laying on my back.
Yeah,
you know?
That's exactly what it feels like. Exactly. The elephant sitting on the chest or sitting on the back, and you feel like.
I think I was almost 200 pounds.
I was 210. 5 feet.
I was tipping pounds. 5 feet. Yeah, I'm 5 feet too. Mm-hmm. And it's
full
like
fluid.
I was tipping about 200 pounds. So, you know, like I said, I look like the blueberry.
Yeah. Look at. I have pictures side to side. Go on search my name on the group site. I mean, I am unrecognizable
Yeah, I look back too, and I look at my face, and I'm like, wow, I was really, my cheeks were swollen, like my
And that's why I
face looked
say
like I
you
looked like the Michelin Man came and ate me up and and
you're
gave
a
me a whole bunch
miracle.
of
You're a miracle. I'm a miracle.
yes,
Miracles connecting with other miracles is what we need to like do. And now, take it a step further. We have the awareness, but now let's talk about the awareness of the transition. And when we come back, how it literally changed us,
right,
and those changes. So make another, well, at some point, take your time. Like I said, time is all we have. I've been doing this for 5 years trying to get a voice out. Even if it takes us a year, let's find like a diversity
right,
of women that can, that can target our women heritage. For me, it's a heritage and race.
right.
For you, it's a race, and for I think Latinos, it's is it a heritage or a race? I think it is. It's heritage.
I believe it's for both. Yeah, I would say for me, it's the same as you. Like especially being like I said, I identify as a Black woman in America, and Hulu just came out with that series. We're dying faster than any third
Yeah,
world
you got
country, and we're in
it's.
the top healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Why? It's not we can't afford it. It's we're being ignored,
Yeah.
and literally we're
Well,
being
we're
put down.
not just being ignored. We're not being diagnosed.
That too. That too. That's a part of it too. Or if we are diagnosed, we're underdiagnosed. We're
Or
told it's something
misdiagnosed.
else. Yes, we're told it's something else when it really should be looked into further and evolved.
It's the fact that I repeat myself all the time. Fact that I'm interviewing women that have been survived for over 20 something 30 years, and then I'm interviewing women that are 20 years old in today's age, and there's been zero.
Right. That's the
Zero.
shocker.
That tells a lot. That speaks volumes on that there's been zero education growth, zero willingness of any support whatsoever, zeroness of being of censoring women.
Yeah.
You know,
A long time. That's a long time.
Too fucking long.
Yes. It's
Too many women have died.
Too
Too many families have suffered.
that didn't need to.
And when it's all unnecessary. Now, if there was no prevention, we wouldn't be talking right now because there would be nothing to talk about. But the fact that the BNP test is the early diagnosis to being prevented is...
Or at least, even if it's not like the answer to all the questions, it's the answer to something, It might be even more tests that we don't even know about that could be, even better than the BNP. But just to have that baseline as your start.
I think you're onto something with that SNAP Pro BNP for the feline. Because that thread exists.
And we can take that home and pee on it, man.
I want to like literally.
That's what I'm like, they just put a pig heart in somebody and he lived like a month. So
yeah. Yeah. No, I listen. My mom had she ended up getting a human valve, but yeah, I mean, like if the thread exists, if the thread exists, I want to try it. I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna purchase a few. I'm gonna find some pregnant women, and I'm gonna say, do this.
I never knew. That's what I said. I had to Google it. So I'm looking like, oh, it really does.
It's to prevent heart failure for a feline cat. That looks like a pregnancy test for women.
That's just, we all can all do that.
That's
that's how we found out we was having these babies.
That is such an insult to all women's intelligence.
That's what when you said it, I'm like, wait, so it's standard for a cat dog, but it's not standard in the hospital of a human?
No, you know what I think? You know what I think is because veterinarians really care about their patients. we care about our
do.
animals. We
You
love
can't
our
be a vet and not be
animals.
passionate about animals. I would never be a vet. I'll tell you that. That's one
Yeah,
career I would not.
I have my most adorable two
I
puppies.
love animals to death.
I
I
know.
don't really
I have a cat. I have a fish. I have 2 golden retrievers.
However, my 7-year-old, she's gonna be a vet. She would come and she'd save all the animals in the world if she could.
Me too.
But
I'm
that's
the
just
same way.
not me. So I do see the passion. It's the passion for the love of what they do.
Of a vet as opposed to
same thing for their patients. Okay.
Yeah, an obstetrician. We're just like factory baby makers. We're not the
You just push
caring.
them out and
The
keep it
caring
going,
is more for the baby, not for the mommy.
Exactly. Like I said, if they can do a whole fetal heart rate and look at 3D, 4D, 5D images, Children's Hospital Boston gave me these like super cool.
But they can't give a simple blood test.
I couldn't get a B&P though. You know, you could pay $5,000 for that ultrasound, but $140 for a test that goes with the other 10 tubes of blood is just too much.
It's insane. And you know what? I love that you're calling bullshit right along with me, because it really is.
I'm calling it bluff. I'm calling them out.
It's the way
it's sad.
Somebody needs to speak up.
To do something.
Yeah.
I agree with you. We need to do something.
Well, high five on that. And I am like so grateful that we connected today. I'm glad that we were able to have the day and the time to do this. This was recorded. It's important. And we're gonna keep me posted on what you find. I'll keep you posted what I find.
Yes,
I'm
definitely.
I
want to find at least one person here. I do know somebody, but I don't think she.
Yeah, it could be anywhere in the world.
I want to find because I know, like I said, I just moved to Miami, and I feel like down there they need more education on this.
I would love to find some Filipino from like Canada. Or like somebody to do.
I want to see what like I said, because I'm a Black woman in America. I want to see what's happening with the Cuban woman in the same predicament that's probably having the same symptoms.
That's what I'm talking about.
Same thing to her.
I want us to have a very diverse, multicultural women that all survived cardiac death from PPCM, and talking about the transition and that. And if we can get a woman from like Canada, the UK, and, I'm Jewish in America, you're Black in America, and maybe a Latino in America. But if we can find just like maybe 6,
a nice diversity,
all do an interview focusing on the transition of our energy never dying and what we saw on the other side, could be another introduction to PPCM. It doesn't have to be like, okay, PPCM in the front. I think it would make it more personal too. Yeah. It would make it more like, listen, this shit's real. Scale. Like this is real. This is real, and this is why it's real. We come with all these facts. With all this PPCM information, and we come with this simple one-step solution that we know. And like I said, there might be more as we go. We all learn from each other. It is putting the pieces together, not just like for PPCM, but putting the pieces together of what happens when you do code and you come back, and why maybe you came back. What do you were a teacher, or you are a teacher. I was a teacher. I'm more a location manager, so I travel. Why were you the chosen one? Why was I the chosen one? Well, because we're educators. Right. Are we all, are the ones that lived, are we the same like that too? Like, why were we chosen? Like we talk, we like to learn, we're educators.
I feel like maybe we're the wheels that need to be turned. And as we keep talking, more people are gonna jump on and be like, I want to say what I said. We'll get all types of different stories.
Yeah.
Like mine started with preeclampsia. There might be somebody that started with something else.
I started with preeclampsia.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. This is definitely something.
Let's go down the rabbit hole with this.
Yes.
And we'll definitely.
I'm willing to take this as far as we can.
Same.
And, if we get to, like you said, you have all your connections. If we get to live TV and we get to do this, oh God, like the world.
The monetized for our YouTube channel is this week, so we'll be verified and monetized. And once that happens, and things are coming up, but
like I said, TikTok too. Like we get on TikTok, we tell stories, we do podcasts, we do lives. It's a whole world that's willing to listen if we just talk.
You're right.
That's all it is. It's just
it's breaking the ice. It's just breaking the ice. So yeah, I'll send you what my TikTok is. I can't even get it for whatever reason.
Yeah, email me anything. Like I said, I am pretty free.
I'm gonna message you. Yeah,
I don't go back to work till about the 15th of that week of August. That's when my schedule's gonna go like that. But definitely email me. Text me. I'll give you my phone number. I'll give you my phone number.
Yeah, I mean, I think messaging on Facebook too is really easy.
Yeah, we can do all that and just like get together, and like you said, if it takes a year, if it takes two.
We just need to find our mission is to get the message out, and our mission within the mission is finding others that have coded from PPCM that has diversity that we can all kind of like connect on a whole other level to use a different approach of introducing PPCM.
Right.
There has to be a different approach.
Like a doctor, if we come personal, I feel like we'll touch more. Coming personal.
Absolutely. We'll touch different people.
Relate to people that say I'm in here, especially if they're going through or they think they're going through, even if they have the thought that they're going through. Like, well, they might hit us with a question that a doctor might not be, willing to answer. And we might just save their life just like that,
Well, the one thing
one person's life, that's an accomplishment for me.
The one thing all women might not have in common, we might not all have PPCM, and one thing all of us people might not have in common is, the one thing that we do have in common is that we all go to the other side. And so it doesn't matter what our suffering is here on life, this physical life that we suffer,
right,
that it will touch everybody. With that type of, I think that type of, and I'm glad that I'm brainstorming because I'm always thinking of ideas on how to introduce this, an unknown that they say rare disease, when it's not rare, it's just not diagnosed or misdiagnosed, to a bunch of people, especially young minds like my niece, that are not willing to be educated unless it's from the big associations, but the big associations are not doing their job. So there has to be another angle. I think this is the angle. It's recorded, this is something that we have actually brainstormed and thought of through our conversation of where to introduce PPCM, but more importantly, what most people want to know. The $1 million question that we have answered, which is that energy never dies, and there is real proof of that. So, with that, I think that we have a lot of work in our, they've given us a lot of work to do.
Right.
And that
this is the purpose.
And this is the purpose.
Reason, yeah.
This is the reason.
This is the reason. I believe people come into your lives for reasons, and there's a reason for everything. I've met so many people in Miami over the year, and it's like all of them have had their purpose with me, whether it's a new job opportunity or a new venture or just trying something new, something different, going out in the community. I've done all that. And I feel like now, like I'm finding in my 30s, more of not working a job. Like I find that less, especially after the pandemic. Like when I was teaching, I lost all of it. It was just like, what can you do to make your life purposeful? Because you didn't come back 3 times for nothing.
Right.
There's something out there than work. Right. And the pandemic kind of broke me down to like figure that out. I started my Amazon business because I'm like, I will never be without a job again. I want to have something that I could say, well, if I know the pandemic hits, I go sell Amazon. I do the drop shipping. I have that. That's a safety net. Mm-hmm. That's something I can do from home. I can invest in. My children can invest in. It's something I can pass. And for us to connect, I feel like
And
this
that's
is
what I
something
do
that we
with
can
Liam.
put together and we
I'm
can
passing
pass.
this. Yeah, I'm passing
Yes,
this
we can
down
pass this.
to
This
our
is going to live
legacy.
on beyond our ears. People are going to see these podcasts and say, this is real, and hopefully, pray to God, in the next 30-year gap, something gets done.
Well,
something changes.
You just basically said it, and it shows proof that in different ways of thinking about it, we are the vessel. Our babies are the ones that are the PPCM babies. We are the ones that if we never had them, we would never know. Right. So it's them that are really the ones that will be eventually
benefiting,
holding the torch. You and I, in a few years, you know how time flies, we'll have our mission. We would have done what we do. But when we die, the mark that we leave is through our legacy to keep the torch.
The goal. That's the goal, is to keep
for our
this
children
alive.
And our children's children,
keep this alive.
And our children's children, and my great
hopefully
grandchild.
Hopefully we get to the point where no one has to die from it.
It doesn't need to.
Where it's just treated like preeclampsia. You get treated for it, you get treated for it, you get treated for it.
Right.
I want it to get to where it's a normal and not, it's so rare. No, it's a normal. We're going to treat it.
Well, what we're doing is we're demanding to raise the lab screening and testings for all pregnancies, so there is diagnosis. And from there, I think, lives will be saved, and we will be able to feel like our purpose and why we lived is actually creating a ripple effect and creating waves and a movement for this movement, because there has been no movement.
Right.
So,
there isn't any.
Zero movement.
Footwork in. Yes. And I'm 100% for it.
So let's do it.
Yes.
Let's do it, girlfriend. And I'm beyond grateful that we connected today.
Thank you so much.
I've had many interviews, but this was the longest one.
This feels good. I'm excited. I'm ready to go, do my usual. I go to the beach, I sit with my notebook, and I'm ready to just think, put everything down.
That's what I do. Look at my Facebook post. I'm at the beach, and I'm at the ocean. I'm trying to think of all different ways on how to bring this to light. Yes, and so, and you are my first interview since that whole fiasco from the scamming of the Mrs. California pageant that is completely, blindsided me with eliminating women's voices, which was really a hard hit for me to take. And
but you fall, my grandmother used to always say, you fall down, you get back up, harder, and you keep going.
Right.
That was something that you had to experience and learn, that it wasn't going to work.
I needed to see that.
And that was an angle that, like you said, you needed a new approach.
American women have had their voices eliminated.
Yes.
We as American women should not accept plastic crowns for Mrs. America or Mrs. California without having a voice. This is not a woman's, pageant that should take away the one thing that makes it a woman's pageant, which is a woman having a purpose, a woman having a voice, a woman having a mission, and is standing there, and is not just standing there in a dress trying to look freaking pretty. We're standing there as trying to actually, create real change. So moving forward with that, I'm just on a whole nother now trip with you and I on bringing this to light, because I was on the beach and I was like, where is the angle? Where am I trying?
Yes.
I need to bring this more into light. And I think you and I together figured that's the angle.
Make it personal.
Well, the light, they always say, go to the light,
Right?
Bring it
Yes,
to
yes,
light. Bring it to light. You know
yes.
what I'm thinking? The light. You know, what can I bring the light? Well, hello. This is what we need to talk about. The transition
Yes.
to the other side,
Yes.
and the real healing light that actually gave us the title that we are miracles. You know, and so let's bring that to light, and we'll go from there. And you know, God, many blessings to you until then. And I know that you have your teaching in August. I have Liam's birthday August 18th. But even if we connect, you know, at some time, you know,
Yeah, maybe like we can do, what is it, the 21st? So maybe August August 21st. Maybe that last week we'll have like a nice little like kind of come in and see, or maybe even September. You know, I'm pretty much, like I
we
said,
can
I'm pretty
find
free.
somebody. I might find somebody, you know, tomorrow. It might take me 3
Yeah,
months, but
right.
let's start. We have our mission. We know what to do now.
And we can come and definitely connect. Like you said, I have your email, I have your Facebook. I'll definitely write you on Facebook, like, hey, you know, want to connect today, or you know, maybe we'll do a phone call. Even, you know, anything will work. Thank you so
Try
much.
to move
I
forward.
really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's always
this was amazing today to definitely do this and finally find somebody like to connect with.
yeah, and working it like a business, because honestly, we are our job is our family, and the more we're with them, the better. So you know, making this a business at home, and creating that, this is our purpose. We should be paid for this, you know, and do what we're supposed to do. If we didn't come back from death, and we didn't come back from, you know, just horrible events, then you know, we were the chosen ones. So you know, it's our job to keep following through that purpose. On, you know, so many women die, so many women didn't make it, didn't come back. So we do it for them. We are their voices.
Yeah, we are what they couldn't be.
Yeah,
pretty much, you know, like not all of us are blessed to come back and have that, you know. Sometimes it is our time, you know, and we are not the judge
took the step off the curb, or they went to that. They
we
took
are not
that
the
line.
judge of time, you know.
Maybe they didn't have somebody to say, like your grandmother or my grandfather, to say, no, don't go there. You know, maybe they didn't have. Maybe, I mean, we don't know why, but maybe we can discover that with somebody else. You know, a conversation.
It's always, you know, we always can look further. And like you said, there's that feline test, you know, that might just be the second thing we can do, you know, if it's that simple, you know.
Yep. We're going to try that feline test. All right. Well, you have a lovely day, and
you as well.
We're going to connect soon.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
My love. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the PPCM Fund podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. PPCM's Painful Truth is made possible through the generous support of donors like you. Help us spread the awareness by donating at ppcmfund.com, or click the link below to become a member through Ko-fi. Have a great day.